Chapter 3462. The second treasure is the ancient book. You should have seen it. It's the complete Light Emperor Sutra left by the Light Immortal Emperor. It contains the mystery of the Light Heavenly Way. If you get this ancient book, it's equivalent to you getting the complete inheritance of the Light Immortal Emperor. With this Light Emperor Sutra, you may be able to comprehend the Light Heavenly Way, and even break through to the Immortal Emperor realm. Di Hongwan said slowly to Ling Xiao. What about this jade box? What's in it? Ling Xiao asked calmly. Do you really want to know what's in it? Di Hongwan said with a wry smile. You're after this jade box, right? Since you want to take it away, I have the right to know what's in it, right? Ling Xiao said calmly. Seeing Ling Xiao's insistence, Di Hongwan couldn't refuse. Well, I can tell you, but I hope you won't tell anyone else about it. In the jade box is a wisp of the Light Immortal Emperor's remnant soul. The Light Immortal Emperor hasn't really died. As long as you bring this wisp of remnant soul back to the Light Immortal Court, you can help him reincarnate. Di Hongwan said slowly. A wisp of the Light Immortal Emperor's remnant soul? No wonder you don't want any other treasures except this jade box. Ling Xiao nodded as a glint flashed across his eyes. If it was the Light Immortal Emperor's remnant soul, it would be of great use and significance to the Light Immortal Court. As the founder of the Light Immortal Court, the Light Immortal Emperor had suppressed the world with great strength and suppressed an era. If he could be reincarnated, he would be an immortal emperor expert once he fully matured. In comparison, the sword and the Light Emperor Sutra were not so important. After all, the real Eternal Emperor weapon, the Light Sword, and the complete inheritance of the Light Immortal Emperor were in the Light Immortal Court. Can I take this jade cloud away now? Di Hongwan looked at Ling Xiao eagerly and asked. Yes. Ling Xiao's eyes flashed and he nodded. He did not immediately take down the sword and the book in the void. Instead, his gaze fell on the corpse of the Light Immortal Emperor in front of him, which was also the source of his uneasiness. He wanted to see what was so strange about the Light Immortal Emperor. Ling Xiao's powerful primordial spirit spread out and slightly probed toward the Radiance Immortal Emperor. However, at this moment, the Tree of World buzzed and shook violently. The source of the commotion was the jade box in Di Hongwan's hand. Not good. There's something wrong with the jade box, Ling Xiao hurriedly said. However, his words were too late. Di Hongwan's eyes were filled with excitement and joy as she slowly opened the jade box. Boom. Inside the jade box, a blazing light gushed out. In an instant, countless black mists rose and a cold, dark, and strange aura gushed out from within. A black ghost face, which looked extremely creepy, suddenly pounced on Di Hongwan. Rumble. Immortal light rose around Di Hongwan, and runes intertwined. Dazzling light also shone from between her eyebrows. As the little princess of the Light Immortal Court, Di Hongwan naturally had many defensive treasures. At this moment, when they sensed that Di Hongwan was in danger, they all automatically activated to protect their master. However, those powerful defensive treasures were useless in front of the ghost face, and they were all torn apart. The ghost face turned into a beam of black light, and instantly entered Di Hongwan's sea of consciousness between her eyebrows and rushed toward her primordial spirit. Go away. At this moment, light shone from between Di Hongwan's eyebrows, and an ancient and mysterious figure emerged, emitting the vast might of the Eternal Heavenly Emperor, protecting Di Hongwan's primordial spirit. It was the primordial spirit restriction that the Immortal Emperor ancestor of the Light Immortal Court had left in Di Hongwan's sea of consciousness between her eyebrows to prevent others from stealing her primordial spirit. After all, Di Hongwan had the Light Sovereign physique, and she was one of the peerless twins of the Light Immortal Court. Since she had left the Light Immortal Court, the Immortal Emperor ancestor of the Light Immortal Court naturally wouldn't let her be in any danger. You're just a kid who's just become an Immortal Emperor. You're just a mark. How dare you stop me? The ghostly face sneered. Immediately, it split into black divine chains of order. They contained a power that could corrode and devour everything, and they suddenly wrapped around the figure. The power of the black face was extremely strange and strange. Even though there was a primordial spirit restriction in Di Hongwan's primordial spirit, those exquisite runes were rapidly weakening, as if they would completely shatter soon. This sudden development was beyond Ling Xiao and Di Hongwan's expectations. They didn't expect that there would be an extremely powerful dark creature hiding in the jade box, scheming to steal Di Hongwan's body. Although Ling Xiao had sensed that something was wrong and felt the dark creature's aura, he'd put all his attention on the light immortal emperor. He didn't expect the dark creature to be hiding in the jade box. Now Di Hongwan was in a critical moment of life and death. Should I save her? Ling Xiao muttered to himself. He saw that Di Hongwan's entire body was occupied by dark energy. Only her glabella still emitted a faint but bright light, which seemed to be in danger of being extinguished at any time. If he didn't do anything, Di Hongwan would be completely stolen by the dark creature in no time. It said that the light immortal emperor died in a great battle with a dark immortal emperor. Could this dark energy be left behind by the dark immortal emperor? Ling Xiao thought to himself. He was only at the peak of the 9th heaven of the immortal king realm. If he rashly fought against a dark immortal emperor, even if it was just a remnant soul, he would be in danger of dying. Therefore Ling Xiao didn't act rashly. Instead he activated the world tree in his glabella. The world tree was an origin treasure that could communicate with the eternal heavenly Tao, and even nurture a new eternal heavenly Tao. It was extremely precious even in the eternal immortal domain. Even immortal emperors would fight for it if they saw it. Under Ling Xiao's activation, the world tree shone brightly and slowly floated out of his glabella. The world tree was surrounded by chaotic light, as if it had taken root in the chaos. Around it were scenes of the birth and death of 3,000 macro worlds. It looked very strange. With Ling Xiao's activation, a branch of the world tree traversed the void and probed toward Di Hongwan's sea of consciousness. Chapter 3463. Kaboom! The eerie dark energy around Di Hongwan actually showed extreme fear after encountering the branches of the world tree. They all dodged in all directions. However, the Tree of World had a strong devouring power. It swallowed the dark energy and turned it into pure immortal spiritual qi, which was absorbed into Ling Xiao's body. As the Tree of World devoured the dark energy around Di Hongwan grew weaker. The Tree of World's branch, which had entered Di Hongwan's forehead, pierced towards the black face like a sharp spear. Tree of World? Damn it! How can you have the Tree of World? The black-faced man revealed an exasperated look in his eyes, as if he was extremely fearful of Yi Qingyu. Swoosh! In the next moment, dark light rose around the black face. A dark rune appeared, releasing a deep light. It transformed into a small black shield, blocking the Tree of World's branch. Boom! The Tree of World's branch collided with the shield, producing a metallic sound. However, as the Tree of World's branch collided, cracks appeared on the dark shield. It looked like it would shatter at any moment. Faster! The black figure was extremely anxious. It tried its best to erode the primordial spirit prohibition around Di Hongwan's primordial spirit. It wanted to break it completely, and then rush in to devour Di Hongwan's primordial spirit. Kaboom! The void trembled violently. The black shield was shattered, and the branch of the Tree of World pierced through it. The black figure could not dodge in time. A part of it was instantly pierced and torn off by the Tree of World's branch. Then, the part of the black figure that was torn off turned into a puff of smoke and fell off instantly. The dark energy contained in it was instantly devoured by the Tree of World. Kaboom! As if it had sensed the most delicious food, the Tree of World shone brightly. Chaotic light rose. A vast and majestic power seemed to have completely awakened. The branches of the Tree of World entered Di Hongwan's mind at the same time. They formed an inescapable net and suddenly enveloped the black figure. The black figure's face changed drastically. Black light surged around him, turning into streaks of dazzling light. He wanted to cut through all the branches of the World Tree. However, the branches of the Tree of World were extremely sturdy. They were filled with an immortal wave. They seemed to have a natural restraining effect on the dark energy. They suddenly whipped out and shattered all the sword light. Kaboom! The branches of the Tree of World formed an inescapable net. In an instant, the black figure was completely enveloped in it. There was a look of despair in the black shadow's eyes. He suddenly roared, "No! I am darkness, immortal darkness Yin Chuayuo. How can I die at the hands of an ant? I can't. I can't." The black figure roared. However, the branch of the Tree of World came crashing down and completely shattered his figure. Then, it extracted the dark energy within and devoured it completely. The black figures Yinchuayuo 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 Yinchuayuo. He had been hiding when he had been Yayanin. Di Hongwan had coincidentally opened the jade box and released him. He had wanted to possess Di Hongwan and leave this place. However, he hadn't expected Ling Xiao to have a supreme treasure like the Tree of World. It seemed to have a natural restraining effect on dark creatures. It easily crushed his remnant soul and devoured it. Yin Chuoyuo was filled with unwillingness and disbelief. After absorbing the remnant soul of darkness, immortal Emperor Yin Chuoyuo, the Tree of World bloomed with dazzling light. It seemed to be nurturing a powerful and mysterious origin in its body. Even the Tree of World's aura skyrocketed, becoming more majestic and powerful. Ling Xiao had a hunch that if he planted the Tree of World in the eternal immortal domains, it would immediately reveal its terrifying body that was billions of miles tall. It would shock the entire eternal immortal domains. After devouring Yin Chuoyuo's remnant soul, Ling Xiao was surprised to see a small flower bloom on one of the branches of the Tree of World. It then gave birth to a strange fruit. The fruit was very small, but it looked extraordinary. There were strange patterns on it, intertwined with Taoist rhymes, and it was slowly growing. At this moment, Di Hongwan, who had been unconscious, slowly woke up. Her eyes were full of fear. Ling Xiao, thank you for saving me. She looked at Ling Xiao earnestly and said with great sincerity. If Ling Xiao hadn't helped her, she would have been killed by Yin Chuoyuo after the primordial spirit restriction in her sea of consciousness had been completely broken. You're welcome. However, didn't you say that the remnant soul of the light immortal emperor was in the jade box? Why did it become the remnant soul of darkness, immortal Emperor Yin Chuoyuo? Ling Xiao's eyes flashed as he asked indifferently. I don't know about that. Previously, the remnant soul of the light immortal emperor had sent a message to the light immortal court through a secret channel, telling them where he was. That's why I said that the remnant soul of the light immortal emperor was in the jade box. However, I didn't expect that not only was the remnant soul of the light immortal emperor not in the jade box, but it was also occupied by the remnant soul of the darkness immortal emperor. Di Hongwan said with a bitter smile. Her eyes were filled with fear. Fortunately, Ling Xiao had come with her to the place of inheritance of the light immortal emperor. Otherwise, if she had come alone, she would have been killed by darkness immortal emperor Yin Chuoyuo. If I'm not wrong, the light immortal emperor has died. The so-called remnant soul is just the remnant soul of Yin Chuoyuo. I don't know how he got some means of the light immortal emperor to deceive you. Ling Xiao said slowly, with a trace of emotion in his eyes. At this point, the light immortal emperor in front of them no longer had any vitality or aura. The sense of crisis in Ling Xiao's heart had completely disappeared. Buzz. At this moment, the corpse of the light immortal emperor suddenly burst into a dazzling light, and the corners of his mouth seemed to curl up into a smile. His whole body turned into a bright rain of light, and slowly disappeared in front of Ling Xiao and Di Hongwan. Before disappearing, the corners of the light immortal emperor's mouth and eyes revealed a trace of relief. At the place where the light immortal emperor had been sitting cross-legged, there were more than a dozen glittering and translucent eternal fruits. Those are eternal fruits, Di Hongwan exclaimed, with a look of surprise and joy in her eyes. At the same time, she was also a little sad. The corpse of the light immortal emperor had obviously resolved the knot in his heart. So he chose to transform into Tao. Naturally, she was very sad, but she did not expect the light immortal emperor to leave behind more than a dozen eternal fruits. Whoosh. At this moment, Ling Xiao waved his sleeve and put away the dozen or so eternity fruits. Then he smiled faintly at Di Hongwan and said, We agreed that the jade box belongs to you, and the other treasures belong to me. Chapter 3464. Di Hongwan's body froze. Her expression became very sad as she looked at Ling Xiao pitifully. Ling Xiao, brother Ling Xiao, senior Ling Xiao, I beg you, please give me an eternal fruit. As you can see, there's nothing in the jade box that I want. There's only the remnant soul of the darkness immortal emperor. I almost died at the hands of the remnant soul of the darkness immortal emperor. Can't you have some sympathy for me? Di Hongwan's eyes were full of resentment. She had planned to break through to the quasi-immortal emperor realm in the heavenly ancient battlefield, but she did not expect that there would be so many eternal fruits in the Radiance Immortal Emperor's land of inheritance. Your Highness, don't forget that if I hadn't saved you, you would have died at the hands of the Darkness Immortal Emperor. How dare you ask me for an eternal fruit? Ling Xiao said with a faint smile. Di Hongwan paused. She knew that it was Ling Xiao who had saved her. She was in the wrong to ask Ling Xiao for an eternal fruit. However, this was the place where the Radiance Immortal Emperor had transformed. It was the best place for her to break through to the quasi-immortal Emperor realm. As long as she had an eternal fruit, she could not only break through to the quasi-immortal Emperor realm, but also absorb the power of the Radiance Immortal Emperor's Radiance Sovereign Body, and accumulate more Radiance origin. She did not want to let go of this opportunity. Thinking of this, she gritted her teeth and took out a bright crystal dagger from the storage space. The dagger was filled with powerful and terrifying Radiance Emperor aura. Its aura was extremely powerful, like a real immortal emperor expert. Ling Xiao could not help but tremble. This is... Ling Xiao's eyes revealed a trace of shock. This is a defensive treasure. It seals the power of the Radiance Immortal Court's Immortal Emperor Ancestor's attack. Although it can only be activated once, it can kill a peak quasi-immortal emperor expert. This should be enough to exchange for an eternal fruit, right? Di Hongwan gritted her teeth and said angrily. If not for the fact that she was no match for Ling Xiao, she would have pounced on him and bitten him a few times. This guy did not have any tender feelings for the fairer sex. Such a delicate beauty in front of him asked for an eternal fruit, but he refused? This made Di Hongwan very unhappy. At the same time, she had some doubts. Could it be that she had become so unattractive? The power of an immortal emperor's strike is indeed a good treasure. Ling Xiao's eyes lit up, and he took the crystal dagger without hesitation. He smiled and said, "This fruit of eternity is yours." Ling Xiao took out an eternity fruit and handed it to Di Hongwan. Ling Xiao, this is the place of inheritance of the Radiance Immortal Emperor. I'm afraid it's also the safest place in the Heavenly Dao ancient battlefield. I plan to cultivate here and break through to the quasi-immortal Emperor realm. What are your plans? Di Hongwan asked. I have the same thoughts as you. I also plan to break through to the quasi-immortal Emperor realm. Ling Xiao's eyes flashed as he spoke slowly. Right now, he already had close to 20 eternal fruits, which was enough for him to accumulate an incomparably powerful foundation. Then he would break through to the quasi-immortal Emperor realm and comprehend the eternal heavenly Dao laws. His foundation and accumulation were enough. Breaking through to the quasi-immortal Emperor realm was just a matter of time. Okay, then let's find a place to cultivate in seclusion. Di Hongwan nodded. Then, she took the eternal fruit and sat down cross-legged at the place where the Radiance Immortal Emperor had transformed. Ling Xiao also found a place to sit cross-legged. However, he did not immediately swallow the eternal fruit to cultivate. Instead, he took out the Shunshan Dao spirit. The Shunshan Dao spirit was a dazzling ball of light that contained a strange spiritual fluctuation. If it was integrated into a weapon or elixir pill, it could improve the grade of the weapon or elixir pill and give birth to an artifact spirit or an elixir spirit. However, Ling Xiao knew that this was the real spirit of the Emperor of Kunwu Mountain. If he wanted to save the Emperor of Kunwu Mountain and make him recall the past and give birth to his spiritual wisdom again, he needed the eternal fruit. Ling Xiao took out an eternal fruit and approached the Shunshan Dao spirit. The Shunshan Dao spirit immediately bloomed with a dazzling light. It buzzed and then emitted a powerful devouring power that instantly swallowed the eternal fruit. The light of the Shunshan Dao spirit became more and more intense, and it emitted a wave of extreme desire. Ling Xiao's heart skipped a beat, and he took out another eternal fruit. Just like that, the Shunshan Dao spirit swallowed a total of 3 eternal fruits and became as dazzling as the sun. It emitted a strange Taoist rhyme that caused the surrounding void to tremble slightly. Then, Ling Xiao carefully put it into his sea of consciousness between his eyebrows and placed it on the Tree of World to nourish it with the strange origin of the Tree of World. The Shunshan Dao spirit had already swallowed 3 eternal fruits. It would not be long before the real spirit of the Emperor of Kunwu Mountain was condensed. Ling Xiao's eyes also revealed a trace of anticipation. Back then, the Emperor of Kunwu Mountain sacrificed his life for the Eldritch world and for Ling Xiao. To Ling Xiao, this was the only master he acknowledged. Therefore, Ling Xiao was very excited and expectant to be able to save the Emperor of Kunwu Mountain. Next, I can prepare to break through to the quasi-immortal Emperor realm, Ling Xiao muttered to himself. His eyes were filled with anticipation. Although there was only a difference of 1 realm between a quasi-immortal emperor and an immortal king, it was like the difference between heaven and earth. A quasi-immortal emperor comprehended the power of the eternal heavenly way, and condensed the seed of the eternal heavenly way in his body. Not only could the eternal fruit speed up this process, but it could also make the seed of the heavenly way more complete and powerful. Ling Xiao took out an eternity fruit and swallowed it in 1 gulp. After Ling Xiao swallowed the eternal fruit, it instantly bloomed with a dazzling light. Mysterious energy flowed through Ling Xiao's body and slowly took root in his body. Like a seed that fell into fertile soil and took root, the eternal fruit also took root in Ling Xiao's body. The trace of heavenly way's origin power that was nurtured in it bloomed with a dazzling light. Dao connotation filled the air, making Ling Xiao vaguely see the power of the eternal heavenly way. However, it looked extremely blurry. Ling Xiao swallowed another eternal fruit. His body shone with a dazzling light and a mysterious Dao connotation gushed out. His aura also became more and more mysterious and majestic. As Ling Xiao absorbed the second eternal fruit, the vast heavenly way's origin power in his body gathered and gradually condensed into a dazzling ball of light. The ball of light seemed to be nurturing a life force. Through this life force, Ling Xiao seemed to be able to directly communicate with the power of the eternal heavenly way's origin power. That life force was the seed of the heavenly way. Chapter 3465. Rumble. Ling Xiao was surrounded by dazzling immortal light and purple qi. His entire body exuded a mysterious and majestic aura. Flowers of the Tao appeared one after another. His body was flawless, and he exuded a vast origin aura. Although he was in the heavenly path ancient battlefield, where the light immortal emperor's inheritance was located, a beam of light still appeared above Ling Xiao's head. It seemed to have pierced through billions of space-time, and formed a mysterious connection with the eternal heavenly path of the eternal immortal domain. Ling Xiao had already swallowed more than a dozen eternal fruits. Inside his body, the ball of light was dazzling like the sun, spewing out boundless light. His bones, flesh, meridians, and even his internal organs were all nurtured by the origin energy. They became crystal clear, without any impurities. His aura was also skyrocketing, getting stronger and stronger as if he was about to break through the peak of the 9th heaven of the immortal king realm, and enter the half-immortal emperor realm. At the same time, Di Honghuan, who was sitting cross-legged on the other side, was also surrounded by immortal light. She had completely activated the Light Sovereign. She was like a peerless empress, exuding a majestic and ancient aura. She was like a supreme empress who could swallow the world, a peerless empress who could sweep through the world, making people feel awe and respect. Di Honghuan sat cross-legged where the Light Immortal Emperor had transformed. The Light Immortal Emperor also had the Light Sovereign. Although he had completely disappeared from the world, the Light Sovereign's origin energy had not completely dissipated. At this moment, after sensing Di Honghuan's Light Sovereign, it surged over and merged into Di Honghuan's body. Crack! A crisp sound rang out. Di Honghuan also broke through the limit of the Immortal King realm, and broke through to the half-immortal Emperor realm. Rumble! At the same time, above the Light Immortal Palace, lightning surged and the void shook. Bolts of lightning were as thick as chaotic mountains, exuding a destructive aura. In the endless lightning, a purple eye appeared. It was incomparably cold and emotionless, only pure anger and destructive aura. It completely locked onto Ling Xiao and Di Honghuan below. This was the great tribulation of the heavenly path. If one wanted to break through to the half-immortal Emperor realm, they had to go through it. The power of the great tribulation of the heavenly path came from the eternal heavenly path. Only by going through the great tribulation of the heavenly path could the seed of the heavenly path in one's body, and break through to the half-immortal emperor realm. Therefore, the great tribulation of the heavenly path came the great tribulation of the heavenly path. Even the heavenly path, the great tribulation of the heavenly path, of the tribulation of the heavenly path by immortal emperor realm. Boom. The void in all directions seemed to have been completely destroyed. Chaotic fog filled the air. Bolts of lightning surged and fell from the 9 heavens, completely enveloping Ling Xiao and Di Honghuan. By the ding by immortal. Immortal. The abiding of the immortals of the world. Of the immortal emperor realm. The purple light of destruction was formless and formless. It did not seem to have any effect on Ling Xiao's body. However, it entered his body in an instant, and headed towards the dazzling light. That was the seed of the heavenly Tao that was about to be born. The purple divine light wanted to completely destroy the seed of the heavenly Tao. Rumble. The purple divine light blasted onto the ball of light and exploded within Ling Xiao's body. Terrifying fluctuations spread out in all directions, causing the dazzling halo to tremble slightly. The purple energy seemed to have entered the seed, and continuously bombarded the seed of the heavenly path. Is this the great tribulation of the heavenly Tao? It's actually only targeting the heavenly Tao seed in my body. However, I've gathered all my mental strength with the seed of heavenly Tao. If the seed of heavenly Tao is destroyed, I'm dead for sure. Ling Xiao's eyes flashed as he thought to himself. The great tribulation of the heavenly Tao was also a tribulation to prove one's Tao. If one wanted to break through to the quasi-immortal emperor realm, then the seed of the heavenly Tao within one's body had to be tempered by the great tribulation of the heavenly Tao. Only then would it be able to condense a trace of the eternal heavenly Tao's quintessence energy and communicate with the eternal heavenly Tao, allowing one to control the eternal heavenly Tao's quintessence energy at any time and erupt with a combat strength that far surpassed a peak 9th heaven immortal king realm expert. That purple eye seemed to be the true form of the eternal heavenly Tao, and it contained an incomparably terrifying destructive power. Streaks of purple destructive divine light shrouded Ling Xiao and Di Honghuan. At the same time, mysterious scenes of chaos fiend gods and immortal beasts howling filled the air around them. All sorts of phenomena fused into their consciousness, as if trying to tear their souls to shreds. Ling Xiao sat cross-legged in space. His soul was clear, and his body was flawless. His body emanated a mysterious and resplendent radiance, causing the surrounding space to tremble slightly. He had swallowed more than a dozen eternal fruits, and his accumulation and foundation had reached an extremely high level. Although the great tribulation of heaven and earth was extremely terrifying, the apocalyptic divine light did not pose any threat to the seed of heaven's way in his body. On the contrary, the seed of the heavenly way in Ling Xiao's body became even more dazzling under the refinement of the apocalyptic divine light. Ling Xiao could feel that his strength seemed to have increased by several times, or even tens of times in an instant. Every move he made could draw upon the might of the heavens, and his aura was terrifying to the extreme. The tempering of the great tribulation of heaven and earth made Ling Xiao's aura stronger and stronger. Di Honghuan was the same. She radiated a mysterious and resplendent radiance, as if she was the embodiment of the origin of light, mysterious and majestic. The great tribulation of heaven and earth was extremely dangerous to others, but to Ling Xiao and Di Honghuan, it was not dangerous at all. It was like an ordinary trial. Before long, the great tribulation of heaven and earth slowly dissipated. Rumble. Ling Xiao's body instantly emitted boundless light, and a mysterious and powerful aura exploded. His eyes were resplendent and bright, and he radiated a vast might of the heavens. Ling Xiao slowly opened his eyes, and then stood up. An invincible fate chi spread out, making him look like a supreme emperor, radiating an endless majestic aura. Ling Xiao's cultivation had finally broken through to the half-immortal emperor realm. At the moment, his entire body contained boundless power, and his strength had increased by more than 10 times compared to before. The seed of the heavenly way had already taken root in Ling Xiao's body, and it had merged with his primordial spirit and body. It was constantly extracting the origin of heavenly way from the void to strengthen itself. As the seed of the heavenly way grew stronger, it would eventually break out of the ground and grow into a towering tree, condensing a complete eternal heavenly way. At that time, Ling Xiao would be invincible as a righteous immortal emperor. Ling Xiao now had a feeling that even if a half-immortal emperor appeared before him, he could kill him with one punch. End of chapter. Chapter 3466. Ling Xiao was surrounded by chaotic immortal light. Auspicious qi rose from him, giving off an indescribable heavenly might. His face was handsome and elegant, and his eyes were bright and resplendent. There seemed to be a mysterious scene of the creation of the world, and the destruction of heaven and earth in his eyes. At this moment, Ling Xiao vaguely felt that there was an eternal heavenly river above the eternal heavenly way. It contained boundless immortal power. Ling Xiao's primordial spirit and true spirit were only slowly imprinted on the heavenly river, leaving a mark of his own. He could communicate with that mark at any time, and then explode with a supreme power that could destroy heaven and earth. Is this a quasi-immortal emperor? A quasi-immortal emperor imprinted his primordial spirit and true spirit on the eternal heavenly way, and used it to mobilize the eternal heavenly way's power. Then, does a real immortal emperor merge his primordial spirit with the eternal heavenly way? Ling Xiao thought to himself. He vaguely seemed to have glimpsed the supreme great Tao of breaking through to the immortal emperor realm. Rumble. At this moment, blazing immortal light bloomed in the distance. Endless light rose, and the shadows of mysterious immortal beasts appeared. True dragons, true phoenixes, cheilants, and all kinds of immortal beasts were worshipping one of the figures that faintly appeared. The figure was dazzling and peerless. Her face was extremely beautiful, and she was tall and slender. Her entire body exuded a graceful and noble aura of a ruler. She also had the aura of an emperor that could sweep the world and devour everything. She was clearly a peerless supreme empress. It's Di Hongwan. Ling Xiao's eyes flashed with light. Di Hongwan had also broken through to the quasi-immortal emperor realm. She seemed to have become the embodiment of light. Endless light energy rose around her, and the power of the light sovereign physique was completely activated. Her entire body exuded a mysterious aura. Di Hongwan slowly opened her eyes. Two beams of immortal light shot out from her eyes, piercing through the void. She looked majestic and mysterious. I broke through. Di Hongwan's eyes were filled with excitement. She had broken through to the quasi-immortal emperor realm. But compared to her breakthrough, what made her even more excited was that her light sovereign physique had completely recovered. Now, she had completely mastered the power of the sovereign of light physique, unlike before when she could only control a trace of the sovereign of light physique. After absorbing the light immortal emperor's Tao transforming power of origin, her strength had increased by more than 10 times, or even 100 times. Di Hongwan's eyes were filled with eagerness, as she felt the boundless power surging out of her body. Ling Xiao, take this. Di Hongwan looked at Ling Xiao and said in a clear voice. She immediately punched Ling Xiao. Her silvery white palm suddenly emitted an infinite amount of light, and a great light celestial seal bloomed. It was like a vast and majestic divine light mountain, mightily pressing down on Ling Xiao. Ling Xiao's eyes flashed. He could immediately feel the terrifying power contained in this punch. Without any hesitation, he threw out a punch as well. Inside Ling Xiao's fist imprint seemed to contain the two kinds of power of creation and destruction intertwined. The aura incomparably terrifying. Boom. Ling Xiao's fist imprint collided with Di Hongwan's great light celestial seal. In an instant, the void trembled violently, as if it was about to be shattered at any time. In the end, the great light celestial seal was the first to shatter. Di Hongwan seemed to feel that Ling Xiao had transformed into an immortal supreme emperor. She actually felt a sense of panic, and was suddenly sent flying. Ling Xiao, you are indeed worthy of being able to suppress defying heaven, and my grandfather on the origin heaven Tao steel. Di Hongwan's eyes sparkled as she looked at Ling Xiao in front of her with interest. Stop fooling around. We can't stay here for long. Let's leave quickly. Ling Xiao's eyes flashed. He suddenly had a sense of uneasiness as he spoke to Di Hongwan with a serious expression. Okay, let's go. Since I have a breakthrough in my cultivation, let's go hunt some quasi-immortal emperors of the dark creatures, and show them the power of light." Di Hongwan's eyes were filled with eagerness. Then Ling Xiao and Di Hongwan turned into two dazzling rays of light, and instantly flew out of the Light Celestial Palace. This time, Ling Xiao had gained a lot in the Light Celestial Emperor's land of inheritance. Not only had his cultivation broken through to the quasi-immortal Emperor realm, but he had also obtained the Light Celestial Emperor's inheritance. The complete Light Emperor's Sutra had been imprinted in his mind, and he had even obtained the power of the Light Heavenly Way. Therefore, he could recognize that the Great Light Celestial Seal that Di Hongwan had just used was a Supreme Emperor technique recorded in the Light Emperor's Sutra. The Light Celestial Emperor's strength was extraordinary, and the Emperor technique recorded in the Light Heart Sutra was also very powerful and contained the power of light. Ling Xiao also discovered that the power of light seemed to have an extremely strong restraining effect on the dark creatures. This was why the Dark Celestial Emperor, Indra, had risked everything to perish together with the Light Celestial Emperor. He had sensed that the power of light was too great a threat to the dark creatures. Ling Xiao and Di Hongwan left the Light Celestial Emperor's land of inheritance and appeared in a barren mountain range. However, the heavenly Tao ancient battlefield in front of them seemed to have changed color. Above them was a blood-red sky, and the ground was filled with endless dark energy. The dark energy was extremely dense, and there was a powerful army of dark creatures everywhere. The dark creatures should have been hiding in this ancient battlefield, waiting to be hunted down by the three immortal courts. But now, they had formed an army of dark creatures, and they were charging forward like a tidal wave. In the distance, war cries and angry roars rang out incessantly. Dazzling immortal light exploded. This was the power of an immortal king's self-detonation. Everything within 10,000 miles was reduced to dust, and countless dark creatures were killed at the same time. However, to the dark creatures' army, the self-detonation of an immortal king was nothing more than a drop of water. It had nothing to do with the battle at all, and the dark creatures' army was quickly drowned out. "What's going on? Why are there so many dark creatures' army?" Di Hongwan cried out in alarm. Both her and Ling Xiao's expressions turned grave. "Those are two traitors of the eternal immortal domain. Kill them." At this moment, a group of dark creatures' army passing by suddenly noticed Ling Xiao and Di Hongwan. The leader of the dark creatures' army was a commander. Murderous intent surged in his eyes, and blood-red light flashed. He led the dark creatures' army to attack Ling Xiao and Di Hongwan. Ling Xiao's eyes flashed coldly, and he punched out. Ling Xiao's fist contained a terrifying power that could destroy heaven and earth. Its aura was incomparably terrifying. Boom! Ling Xiao's fist mark blossomed in the sky, turning into an ancient divine mountain, and came crashing down majestically. The immortal King Dark Creature's army and the Dark Creature's army below were reduced to dust in an instant. Chapter 3467. The violent shockwaves from the battle immediately drew the attention of the army of dark creatures further away. Soon, many dark creatures with powerful auras pounced on Ling Xiao and Di Hongwan. "Let's kill our way out and meet up with the immortal court of fortune. Something big must have happened in the heavenly Tao ancient battlefield." Ling Xiao's eyes flashed as he spoke slowly to Di Hongwan. "All right." Di Hongwan's expression was solemn and stern. "Kill these traitors of the eternal immortal domain. Don't let them escape. These traitors deserve to die. Set up the formation. Everyone attack together. These two are very strong. Don't be careless." Countless dark creatures in the distance roared angrily and charged at Ling Xiao and Di Hongwan. Rumble! The void shook violently as Ling Xiao and Di Hongwan pierced through the heavens like two dazzling beams of light. Incomparably fierce attacks landed on the army of the dark creatures. Both of them had broken through to the quasi-immortal Emperor realm, and were very strong. Now that they attacked, they killed a large number of dark creatures in an instant, and pierced through the army of dark creatures. Ling Xiao's fists were like dragons, and each punch was like a chaotic divine realm crashing down. He slaughtered the army of dark creatures. Not only were those dark creatures unable to cause any harm to him, but they were also reduced to dust by his invincible fist mark. Di Hongwan's body blossomed with boundless light that filled the area for thousands of miles. She used a supreme forbidden technique, And immediately, all the creatures of darkness within a range of 10,000 kilometers melted like snow under the endless light. Their eyes were filled with great terror, and they did not even have the time to cry out. Di Hongwan's light sovereign physique allowed her to communicate with the power of the heavenly Tao of light. As for the power of light, it was extremely destructive to the creatures of darkness. Rumble. At this moment, a figure with a terrifying aura tore through the endless darkness and descended from the distance. It was a dark creature tens of thousands of feet tall. His eyes were like blood moons, and his entire body was filled with an extremely cold aura. He was like the Dark Emperor, appearing in the army of the dark creatures, instantly causing endless cheers. Moreover, boundless dark energy was gushing out from his body, spreading in all directions as if it was going to erode all life. Di Hongwan's eyes flashed. She realized that it was a dark half-immortal emperor. He was extremely strong, at least at the fifth sky of the half-immortal emperor layer. He was much stronger than Ling Xiao and Di Hongwan, who had just broken through. However, there was no fear in Ling Xiao and Di Hongwan's eyes. Instead, they were filled with strong battle intent. Ling Xiao, why don't you let me deal with this dark half-immortal emperor? You'll hold the line for me, Di Hongwan said eagerly. All right, but make it quick. I can sense that this army of darkness is only the vanguard. There are even more powerful creatures of darkness behind them. Ling Xiao's eyes flashed as he spoke slowly. Don't worry. Di Hongwan smiled faintly. Dazzling light bloomed around her. A crystal-like radiant immortal sword appeared in her palm. It was the sword she had obtained from the radiant immortal emperor's inheritance ground. However, this sword could explode with even more power in Di Hongwan's hands, so Ling Xiao lent it to her for the time being. With the radiant immortal sword in hand, the light around Di Hongwan grew stronger. She struck out with her sword. It was like a dazzling starlight that split the sky and earth apart. It instantly broke through the darkness and lit up the world. The dark half-immortal emperor's eyes were extremely cold. At this moment, he felt the light around Di Hongwan, and instantly revealed a monstrous killing intent. You're actually a remnant of light? You're courting death. The dark half-immortal emperor's eyes were filled with killing intent. He struck out with his palm toward Di Hongwan. That palm covered the sky and earth. Endless dark light gathered and turned into countless weapons like sabers, spears, swords, halberds, and so on. It attacked Di Hongwan like a storm of divine weapons. Rumble. Di Hongwan held the radiant immortal sword. She was surrounded by ethereal immortal light and sword chi. She struck out with her sword and countless strands of light sword chi ripped through the sky, completely shattering the dark storm of weapons. The sharp sword chi fell, and turned into billions of crisscrossing divine light. In an instant, countless dark creatures died, and were directly melted by the light power. Di Hongwan held the radiant immortal sword, and slashed down toward the dark half-immortal emperor. The dark half-immortal emperor's eyes were extremely cold. He seemed to have sensed that Di Hongwan was not to be trifled with. A huge dark spiked mace appeared in his hand and flew towards Di Hongwan. Rumble. The sword chi and the mace collided, causing the void all around to tremble violently. Endless divine light swept out, and the incomparably sturdy wolf-tooth mace was like tofu under the radiant immortal sword. It was instantly cut into pieces. Di Hongwan held the radiant immortal sword. Her eyes were extremely cold, as if she had transformed into a peerless empress. Her aura was terrifying and powerful. After shattering the spiked club, she took advantage of the dark quasi-immortal emperor's shock to slash down with her sword and instantly cut off one of his arms. In an instant, endless dark energy gushed out and surged toward Di Hongwan. It was as if it wanted to completely turn her into a dark puppet. However, the endless light power around Di Hongwan seemed to be the nemesis of the dark energy. It melted the dark light. You're courting death. The dark half-immortal emperor was in pain. His eyes were filled with shock and anger. Boundless dark light gathered in his palm, as if it had transformed into a dark divine dragon in an instant. At the same time, dark chains rose from behind him as if they could seal everything. In an instant, they covered the sky and covered the earth. They were like a huge net that was about to envelop Di Hongwan. Kill! Di Hongwan's eyes were incomparably cold. Her sword chi swept out. Every slash of the sword was able to break through the endless darkness. Although the dark divine dragon was ferocious and was not afraid of the light power, it was still destroyed by the radiant immortal sword. However, those dark chains seemed to be made of some special material. They were not afraid of the light power at all. They were densely packed in the void. Although Di Hongwan had cut off a few of them, there were still many dark chains that were like tentacles that locked Di Hongwan's hands and legs. Die. The dark half-immortal emperor's eyes were filled with triumph. He suddenly punched out. That punch was extremely terrifying. It was as if it was going to shatter Di Hongwan's heart. Her entire body was going to explode into dust. At this moment, a dazzling chaotic sword light bloomed. It seemed to contain the endless power of the world, and the origin of all living things. It mightily slashed toward the dark half-immortal emperor. This sword light was so fast that even the dark quasi-immortal emperor didn't have time to react before he was cut in half by Ling Xiao's sword. Even his dark primordial spirit was completely destroyed. A powerful dark half-immortal emperor had completely fallen. Chapter 3468. A powerful dark half-immortal emperor was killed by Ling Xiao with a single strike. Di Hongwan was shocked, and her eyes were filled with disbelief. She had fought with the dark half-immortal emperor before, so she knew how powerful he was. Even though she possessed the light sovereign physique and possessed unparalleled strength, it would take some time for her to take down the dark half-immortal emperor. However, the powerful dark half-immortal emperor was so weak in front of Ling Xiao. He was killed by Ling Xiao with a single strike. Di Hongwan was stunned for a long time before she came back to her senses. Then, she looked at Ling Xiao angrily and said, "Ling Xiao, I told you to leave the dark half-immortal emperor to me. Why did you attack him?" Di Hongwan was so angry that she wanted to pounce on Ling Xiao and bite him. "Cut the crap. I already feel that Princely Wuji of the Creation Immortal Court is in danger. Let's hurry over," Ling Xiao said solemnly as he looked at the boundless dark army in the distance. "Okay." Di Hongwan's expression also became serious. After all, they were on the Creation Immortal Court's side. If Princely Wuji of the Creation Immortal Court died here, it would not do them any good. After the dark quasi-immortal emperor was killed by Ling Xiao, the rest of the dark army fled in all directions like birds and beasts. At the same time, Ling Xiao and Di Hongwan also felt that there was an even more powerful aura coming toward them. Ling Xiao and Di Hongwan instantly leaped up and teleported into the distance. The dark army here was endless, surging like waves. If they stayed here, they would only fall into the dark army, and might even attract more powerful dark half-immortal emperors. Ling Xiao and Di Hongwan decided to find the Creation Immortal Court's people, and meet up with Princely Wuji before making any plans. Ling Xiao and Di Hongwan were extremely fast. They traversed the void and instantly teleported hundreds of thousands of miles. These millions of kilometers of land were all occupied by the Dark Race Army. The dark energy, the monstrous killing intent, and the endless strange aura made Di Hongwan's scalp tingle, even though she had broken through to the half-immortal emperor realm. There were too many. There was no end to the army of darkness, and it was impossible to say how many millions upon millions of experts there were. Were they really going to invade the eternal immortal domains? Di Hongwan's expression became more and more serious. Rumble. The heavens and earth trembled violently. In the distance, there were a few figures with terrifying auras that emitted endless dark aura. They were a group of powerful dark creatures. This was especially so for the three figures in the lead. Their auras pierced through the heavens and earth, filled with towering killing intent. They were three powerful darkness quasi-immortal emperors. Immortal light shone dazzlingly as the experts of the eternal immortal domains fought with everything they had. Their eyes filled with shock and fury. Crown Prince Li Wuji and Second Prince Li Wushuang were among them. They led thousands of immortal kings and set up a powerful defensive immortal formation, blocking the countless powerful dark creatures outside. Crown Prince Li Wuji and Second Prince Li Wushuang had also broken through to the half-immortal emperor realm. Their foundations were immeasurably deep to begin with. If not for the trial in the heavenly Tao ancient battlefield, they would have broken through to the half-immortal emperor realm long ago. Under their leadership, the immortal kings of the immortal court of fortune were engaged in a bloody battle with the army of darkness. However, the current situation was very unfavorable for the immortal court of fortune. Although the immortal court of fortune had thousands of immortal kings, they had formed a powerful immortal formation. All sorts of divine abilities, immortal arts, and immortal weapons were used to suppress the army of darkness, killing large swathes of them. However, there were simply too many dark creatures around them. Who knew how many billions of them there were? They were like a black swarm of ants that didn't fear death. As for the dark creatures that were killed, they all turned into extremely pure dark energy and poured into the bodies of the three dark quasi-immortal emperors, making their auras stronger and stronger. The three half-immortal emperors were incredibly powerful. They kept attacking Li Wuxia and Li Wuji, putting them at a disadvantage. After all, the crown prince and second prince Li Wuxia had only recently broken through to the half-immortal emperor realm. As for the three half-immortal emperors, they were all incredibly powerful. Even the weakest one was at the third heaven of the half-immortal emperor realm. The most powerful one was at the sixth heaven of the half-immortal emperor realm. They were incredibly powerful. All sorts of powerful dark divine abilities were used to suppress Li Wuxia and Li Wuji. At the same time, the incomparably dense dark energy was constantly invading their space, trying to turn them into dark puppets. Rumble. The gigantic immortal formation formed a super enchantment. The enchantment shone with resplendent light, and auspicious chi rose from it. Numerous divine chains of order formed a powerful defensive force, protecting the numerous immortal kings within. However, under the powerful attacks of the three dark quasi-immortal emperors, and the impact of the countless dark creatures around them, the boundary with ethereal immortal light trembled violently, as if it would collapse at any time. As for those immortal kings, their eyes were filled with incomparable fear. Once the boundary was completely destroyed, they would be completely overwhelmed by the dark creatures even if they were extremely powerful. At that time, the best outcome for them would be to die in battle. They might even be invaded by the dark energy and turn into dark puppets that were neither human nor ghost. Crack! Right at this moment, the barrier trembled violently, and a corner of it was actually blasted open by a single punch from that formidable darkness quasi-immortal emperor. After that, he stretched out his hand and grabbed, and a few dozen immortal kings were pulled out from within. The half-immortal emperor's eyes were extremely cold. He opened his black mouth and threw the dozens of immortal kings into his mouth. Then he swallowed them in one gulp. Such a bloody devouring caused many immortal kings to turn incomparably pale. Their eyes were filled with incomparable despair. The army of dark creatures continued to attack the boundary from the gap. Several immortal kings were caught off guard and were severely injured. Moreover, they were invaded by the dark energy and were about to turn into puppets. Their eyes were filled with determination. They instantly rushed into the army of dark creatures and detonated their immortal king bodies. The terrifying explosion instantly swept across a radius of tens of thousands of miles. Countless dark creatures were blown into pure dark energy. Corpses and bones flew everywhere. For a time, there were broken limbs everywhere. This area seemed to have turned into Azura hell. Chapter 3469. Li Wuji, I wasn't convinced. In terms of talent and skill, you're no match for me. What makes you the crown prince of the immortal court of fortune? I'm just a mere prince. Only I am worthy of being called the crown prince of the fortune immortal court. I am worthy of inheriting the will of the fortune immortal emperor, and becoming the emperor lord of the fortune immortal court. I will lead the fortune immortal court, and restore the glory of our ancestors. The longevity bone in front of second prince Li Wuxia's chest emitted a dazzling radiance. He punched the dark quasi-immortal emperor in front of him, and forced him back. Then he stared at Li Wuji and said slowly, "However, today, I discovered that our dispute is so laughable. Compared to the undying hatred between the eternal immortal domains and the creatures of darkness, our quarrel is insignificant. If I don't die today, I'll give you the position of crown prince. I will pursue the supreme Tao and become an immortal emperor. Then I'll sweep through the world and suppress the darkness. That is my ambition." The second prince stared at Li Wuji with a complicated expression. but his eyes were bright and resplendent. What's the point of saying so much? I'm afraid you and I won't be able to escape today. We've fought for so long, but who would have thought that we'd be buried in the ancient battlefield of the heavenly Tao today? It seems fate really does make fools of us. Li Wuji coughed up a mouthful of blood. His face was pale as he smiled bitterly. Although he had broken through to the half-immortal emperor realm, he still felt a deep sense of helplessness when facing the two half-immortal emperors. He was completely suppressed. But he had the honor of being the crown prince of the immortal court of fortune. He wasn't willing to die here. Therefore, he unleashed all sorts of powerful means and forbidden arts, launching an extremely intense battle against the two darkness quasi-immortal emperors before him. There were actually signs that he was about to reverse the situation. The longevity bone in front of second Prince Li Wushuang's chest shone with dazzling light. It allowed Li Wushuang to use the eternal heavenly Tao to fight against the sixth heavenly layer quasi-immortal emperor. Li Wushuang's body was covered in golden blood, and he seemed to have suffered unimaginable injuries. But his eyes shone brighter than ever. Despite being suppressed, his will to fight only grew stronger. Li Wuji, I've never accepted you before. But today you and I will fight together. I'm willing to call you Big Brother. If he died here today, everything would be over. If I can escape, then I, Li Wushuang, will naturally be invincible. Li Wushuang laughed out loud. His voice was filled with boundless heroism and passion. Hearing Li Wushuang call him Big Brother, Li Wuji couldn't help but tremble. His gaze became extremely complicated. It had been many years since Li Wushuang called him Big Brother. The two of them had been fighting to the death, scheming against each other for the position of the crown prince of the immortal court. Who would have thought that they would fight side by side in the heavenly Tao ancient battlefield? Crown Prince Li Wuji took a deep breath. His eyes flashed with madness as he shouted, "Then let's fight. Even if I die, I will drag a few of them down with me." His eyes were filled with determination. The aura around him blazed even brighter. His battle prowess seemed to have increased by several times as he fearlessly charged towards the two dark quasi-immortal emperors. Rumble. At this moment, one of the dark quasi-immortal emperors suddenly blocked Crown Prince Li Wuji's path. Then, under Crown Prince Li Wuji's furious gaze, an incomparably dark fist mark bloomed on the immortal light boundary. Crack! An incomparably crisp sound rang out. Countless runes shattered, and the immortal light barrier exploded with a loud bang, turning into a resplendent light shadow. The eyes of the dark creatures were filled with incomparably cold killing intent and bloodthirsty cruelty. They charged towards the immortal kings like a tide. At this moment, the eyes of the immortal kings of the Fortune Immortal Court were filled with despair. Rumble. However, at this moment endless chaotic light shone in the distance. A mighty chaotic fist print seemed to break through the void in an instant, turning into a chaotic divine mountain that was billions of kilometers tall. It contained the life force of the infinite world as it pressed down mightily. In an instant, the earth trembled violently, and countless dark creatures were turned into dust. The dark divine mountain seemed to be blocking in front of everyone, blocking the attack of the army of dark creatures. Above the nine heavens, a figure with an incomparably terrifying aura swept across the sky and turned into a mysterious and powerful young man in white. In his eyes, there seemed to be a strange scene of the sun and moon revolving, and the birth and death of the world. Who else could it be but Ling Xiao? At the same time, there was a dazzling beam of sword chi slashing down from the nine heavens. The sword light was vast and mighty, like a river of stars, containing endless killing intent. It enveloped the three darkness quasi-immortal emperors, wanting to kill them. Who's there? The dark quasi-immortal emperors were shocked and angry, and they roared. The three dark quasi-immortal emperors immediately gave up on Li Wuji and Li Wushuang, and punched out at the same time. It turned into three dark fist marks, carrying endless dark energy, and rushed towards the light sword chi. Rumble. The three dark fist marks, carrying endless dark energy, collided violently with the light sword chi, shaking the void and shattering the heaven and earth. In the end, the three dark fist marks were completely destroyed. The radiant sword chi exploded in a single moment as well. It turned into countless streaks of radiant sword chi that descended from the heavens, killing all the creatures of darkness within a radius of 100,000 kilometers. Di Hongwan was like a peerless empress, with an extraordinary temperament and peerless beauty. She descended from the 9 heavens with the radiant celestial sword in her hand and stood beside Ling Xiao. It's Senior Ling Xiao and Princess Di Hongwan, Li Wuji exclaimed. His eyes were filled with surprise and joy. Li Wushuang also looked at Ling Xiao with a complicated expression. He had always regarded Li Wuji as an enemy, so naturally, he also regarded Ling Xiao as an enemy. However, he did not expect Ling Xiao to be the one who saved him in the end. Are you all okay? Ling Xiao looked at everyone and asked indifferently. We're fine. Thank you, Senior Ling Xiao. If it weren't for you and Princess Di Hongwan, I'm afraid we wouldn't be able to escape today. Li Wuji smiled bitterly. Ling Xiao, why don't we have a competition? Leave these 2 dark quasi-immortal emperors to me, and I'll leave the strongest one to you. Let's see who can kill him first. Di Hongwan looked at Ling Xiao eagerly and said, Sure, if you lose you'll be my maid. Ling Xiao glanced at Di Hongwan and said, How dare you? Di Hongwan was furious, but she suddenly smiled and said, Sure, but if you lose, you'll be my guard. Sure, but you'll lose for sure. Ling Xiao smiled indifferently. His gaze fell on the 6th sky of the quasi-immortal emperor realm expert. His eyes were filled with cold killing intent. Chapter 3470. Rumble. In the void, a blazing light bloomed. Di Hongwan's body shone brightly, and the surrounding void trembled rapidly. In her palm, the radiant immortal sword shone brightly, and in an instant, it soared into the sky and slashed down towards the 2 dark half-immortal emperors. You're courting death. The 2 dark half-immortal emperors' eyes flashed with murderous intent. They actually felt a deep threat from Di Hongwan, and their murderous intent grew stronger. Light was the nemesis of darkness. They felt that Di Hongwan was their fated enemy, so they didn't show any mercy. Rumble. One of the dark half-immortal emperors took out a black spear. The spear light pierced through the void, and contained an extremely powerful devouring power. In an instant, billions of spear lights were formed, and they enveloped Di Hongwan. The other dark half-immortal emperor took out a large black net in his palm, and it swept across the void like an inescapable net. Black chains of darkness crisscrossed the air, trying to trap Di Hongwan within. The 2 dark half-immortal emperors used their most powerful killing techniques, as if they wanted to kill Di Hongwan directly. Crack. A bolt of dark lightning bloomed. The most powerful dark quasi-immortal emperor released a beam of dark destructive divine light from his palm, which instantly enveloped Di Hongwan. Di Hongwan's light aura seemed to attract all the dark creatures in an instant. Everyone treated her as their fated enemy. The 3 dark half-immortal emperors attacked her at the same time. Swoosh! A dazzling sword light soared across the sky, and in an instant, it completely crushed the dark destructive light. Ling Zhao's figure flashed, and like a dazzling lightning, he instantly blocked in front of the strongest dark half-immortal emperor. He said indifferently, Your opponent is me. You're courting death. The dark half-immortal emperor's eyes were filled with murderous intent. He was a 6th heaven half-immortal emperor expert, while Ling Xiao had just broken through to the half-immortal emperor realm. In his opinion, Ling Xiao could be easily killed. He soared across the sky, and with a pull of his hands, a dark battle saber appeared. The saber light was blazing, and it contained a terrifying power that could destroy all life. It slashed down towards Ling Xiao. Rumble. The surrounding space trembled violently. The blade of darkness devoured all life. It contained the power of great destruction and destruction. At the same time, it could cleanse one's soul and erase one's intelligence. It was terrifying to the extreme. Just the aftermath of the battle made Crown Prince Li Wuji and Second Prince Li Wushuang's expression change drastically. Their eyes were filled with worry. Could Ling Xiao stop this dark quasi-immortal emperor? Kill. Ling Zhao's eyes shone brightly in the face of the domineering and all-annihilating supreme blade light. Blazing immortal light exploded and endless chaotic light gushed out. The heaven-devouring sword in his hand buzzed and vibrated, letting out a sword cry that it yearned for. The strength of the dark quasi-immortal emperor also made Ling Xiao's heart burst with an incomparably powerful battle intent. The sky-devouring sword seemed to know what its master was thinking. It slashed out, and a sharp sword light instantly pierced through billions of voids and slashed at the blade light. That sword also contained destruction, but it also seemed to be the origin of all things, the end of all life, the end of all worlds. That sword broke through time and space, annihilated life and death, and shattered the heavens. A mysterious power spread out. This was the Origin Sword, the supreme emperor art created by the Origin Immortal Emperor. With one sword, heaven and earth were destroyed and all things fell. Crack. It was as if billions of brilliant suns were blooming at the same time in the void. Originally, the world was covered by endless darkness, but at this moment, endless light bloomed, as if the sky had been shattered. Vast and resplendent immortal light poured down from the ninth heaven, dispersing all the dark light. The Origin Sword Qi and the dark blade light collided, causing the surrounding void to tremble violently. Crack! An incomparably crisp sound rang out. The dark blade in the dark quasi-immortal emperor's hand was broken by Ling Xiao's sword. Even the arm of the dark quasi-immortal emperor exploded with a loud bang. The dark quasi-immortal emperor seemed to have suffered an unbearable blow. His entire body trembled violently, and he was sent flying. Countless dark creatures on the ground were smashed into dust. What? Crown Prince Li Wuji and Second Prince Li Wushuang's eyes were filled with shock and disbelief. They looked up at Ling Xiao in the void, their eyes filled with delight. They hadn't expected Ling Xiao's battle strength to be so great that he could destroy the strongest dark quasi-immortal emperor's arm with a single sword strike. They were both dark quasi-immortal emperors, but they felt that the difference between them and Ling Xiao was like the difference between heaven and earth. Even the incomparably proud Li Wushuang couldn't help but smile wryly. He had to admit that he was inferior to Ling Xiao. Ling Xiao was indeed worthy of being the first on the Origin Heaven Dao stele, an existence who could suppress the heavens. Such a peerless genius would surely illuminate the eternal immortal domains. No one would be able to stop his light. Very well, traitor of the eternal immortal domains. It seems that this seat has underestimated you. I didn't expect you to possess such heaven-defying battle strength as soon as you became a dark quasi-immortal emperor. You must be one of the most heaven-defying geniuses in the eternal immortal domains. It's my honor to be able to kill a genius of the eternal immortal domains today. The dark quasi-immortal emperor's eyes were filled with shock, but there wasn't the slightest trace of fear in them. Instead, they were filled with a strong desire to fight. Boom! Dark light surged around the dark quasi-immortal emperor as a terrifying aura erupted from his body. It seemed to envelop the surrounding void, forming an enormous vortex of devouring. Countless dark creatures below instantly soared into the sky. They were actually swallowed and absorbed by the dark quasi-immortal emperor in the void like nourishment, causing the dark quasi-immortal emperor's aura and power to become stronger and stronger. The dark quasi-immortal emperor stood in the air. He was 30,000 meters tall, and was like an incomparably powerful supreme evil demon. His body exuded an aura that could destroy everything and a fluctuation of energy that could devour everything, causing everyone's mind to tremble. The dark quasi-immortal emperor gave Ling Xiao a feeling of extreme danger. Kill! The dark quasi-immortal emperor roared. Boundless dark lightning surged above his head, forming a dark millstone that seemed capable of obliterating all life as it came crashing down on Ling Xiao. The dark millstone seemed to be formed from the essence of darkness. It contained the heavenly Tao of darkness, as well as a transcendent aura. It didn't seem to come from the dark quasi-immortal emperor at all. Ling Xiao felt an intense sense of danger. Chapter 3471. Rumble. At the same time, Ling Xiao's body emitted a dazzling light. It was as if a sun had risen between his eyebrows, emitting an endless amount of light. Even the sky-devouring sword was shining brightly, as if it could destroy everything. Ling Xiao had already obtained the inheritance of the Light Immortal Emperor. The Light Imperial Scripture had completely merged with his primordial spirit. Although he couldn't use all kinds of supreme secret techniques for the time being, there was a supreme forbidden technique that could erupt with destructive power. It was just that he had to pay a certain price. A drop of multicolored blood flew out from between Ling Xiao's eyebrows. His primordial spirit instantly became dispirited. That was the blood of his primordial spirit, and also the essence of his primordial spirit. At this moment, the drop of primordial spirit blood was instantly ignited by him. Then it enveloped the sky-devouring sword, causing it to ignite with raging flames. Its aura was terrifying to the extreme. Ling Xiao held the sky-devouring sword in his hand and slashed down from the sky. The surrounding sky instantly formed a monstrous sea of fire, enveloping millions of miles of land. Countless sword qi rose from the sea of fire, erupting a fatal blow towards the dark quasi-immortal emperor. Sky-incinerating light Dao. This was a supreme forbidden technique, created by the light immortal emperor. Its power was incomparably terrifying, and it had a strong restraining effect on the dark creatures. As soon as the sky-incinerating light Dao was unleashed, the sky-devouring sword seemed to have turned into an eternal emperor weapon. The power of the eternal heavenly Dao instantly gushed out. The sword was dazzling to the extreme, and in an instant, it collided with the dark millstone. Crack! An incomparably crisp sound bloomed. The incomparably powerful dark millstone was destroyed by Ling Xiao's sword. At the same time, the sky-devouring sword's momentum did not decrease. The sword qi swept across the void and slashed towards the dark quasi-immortal emperor. What? The dark quasi-immortal emperor's face changed drastically, his eyes filled with disbelief. In an instant, he ignited his darkness origin, wanting to teleport into the distance. However, the sky-devouring sword was too fast. It was like a supreme divine light that could destroy heaven and earth. In an instant, it slashed the dark quasi-immortal emperor's body, directly splitting him into two halves. The dark quasi-immortal emperor's incomparably powerful body directly exploded in the void, releasing endless dark divine light. At the same time, a blurry dark shadow flew out. It was the true spirit of the darkness quasi-immortal emperor. He looked at Ling Xiao with incomparable resentment and said coldly, "You're dead meat. His Excellency will definitely not let you off." However, it didn't run away. Instead, it pounced towards Ling Xiao. It was as if a dark storm was sweeping over from all directions. It directly turned into vast dark flames in the void and enveloped Ling Xiao, wanting to completely turn Ling Xiao into a dark creature. Ling Xiao's eyes were filled with murderous intent. The heaven-devouring sword slashed down from the sky, instantly annihilating the true spirit of the dark quasi-immortal emperor. That sixth-layer half-immortal emperor realm dark half-immortal emperor had died. How is this guy so strong? In the distance, Di Hongwan's eyes were filled with disbelief and shock. The radiant immortal sword in her hand shone with dazzling light. Sword qi swept through the void. Every slash of the sword could kill a large number of dark creatures. Although the two dark quasi-immortal emperors were extremely strong, they were currently being suppressed by Di Hongwan. It was as if they would be killed by her sword at any time. However, she had never thought that the strongest dark quasi-immortal emperor would die in Ling Xiao's hands so quickly. She immediately felt a sense of defeat. Rumble! Di Hongwan's body shone with dazzling light. She had activated the radiant sovereign physique to the extreme. Behind her, endless light bloomed. It was as if there was a peerless empress who looked down on the world, and was slowly merging with her. She raised the radiant immortal sword and instantly slashed out tens of thousands of sword lights. Countless sword lights blotted out the sky and earth, actually forming an incomparably powerful and terrifying radiant destruction sword formation, instantly enveloping the two darkness quasi-immortal emperors and killing them. Clearly, this was also a forbidden technique. Di Hongwan had been forced into a corner by Ling Xiao, so she directly used the forbidden skill. The two dark quasi-immortal emperors were already at a disadvantage. Now that Di Hongwan had used such a powerful forbidden skill, they roared angrily and continuously released their darkness origin. They wanted to rush out of the sword formation, but they still failed in the end. Rumble! The two dark quasi-immortal emperors were completely shattered by the sword formation. Even their primordial spirits and true spirits were destroyed. There was no way for them to escape. Everyone, follow me and kill these creatures of darkness. Although Crown Prince Li Wuji and Second Prince Yu Wushuang's faces were filled with shock, they seemed to have woken up from a dream and roared at the same time. Then they led the experts of the creation celestial court and charged toward the army of the dark creatures. Although the army of dark creatures seemed endless, they seemed to have lost their will to fight after the few dark quasi-immortal emperors were killed. They wanted to escape into the distance. As for Crown Prince Li Wuji and Second Prince Li Wushuang, they had long been holding their breaths. Their bellies were filled with anger and killing intent. They led many immortal kings and launched a one-sided massacre against the army of darkness creatures. Countless dark creatures were killed. This place seemed to have turned into Azura hell, filled with monstrous killing intent. In the void, Ling Zhao's expression did not relax at all. Instead, his brows were tightly knitted together. He discovered an extremely strange phenomenon. After those creatures of darkness were killed, the darkness source actually fused into the earth. It was as if it was directly devoured by some terrifying existence, disappearing without a trace. When he thought of the lord that the dark quasi-immortal emperor had mentioned, Ling Zhao suddenly felt uneasy. What kind of terrifying existence could be called lord by a dark quasi-immortal emperor? Could it be a true dark quasi-immortal emperor? Ling Zhao, I didn't expect you to be so powerful. A dark quasi-immortal emperor of the sixth heaven of the quasi-immortal emperor realm died so easily in your hands. However, I am the princess of the Radiance Immortal Court. I can't be your maid. I can promise you one thing. No matter what it is, I can promise you. Di Hongwan secretly glanced at Ling Zhao and pouted. She knew she had lost the bet with Ling Zhao. However, she could not bring herself to be Ling Zhao's maid. Therefore, there was a hint of coquettishness and pleading in her words. Promise me anything? You said it. Ling Zhao glanced at Di Hongwan with a half-smile, and then kept sizing her up. What do you want? Di Hongwan's delicate body trembled, and her face instantly turned red. She asked shyly. Her heart thumped wildly, and she could not help but let her imagination run wild. Ling Zhao's eyes were so bright and passionate. Could it be that he wants me to repay him with my body? If he really made this request, then should I agree or reject him? Di Hongwan's heart was in a mess, and her face became more and more shy. Don't worry, I'm not interested in you. However, you seem to have a powerful defensive treasure on you. Why don't you give it to me? Ling Zhao seemed to have seen through Di Hongwan's thoughts and said with a half-smile. You bastard. Di Hongwan's body trembled, and her face instantly showed a mixture of shame and anger. She wanted to pounce on Ling Zhao and bite him a few times. Chapter 3472. What do you want? Di Hongwan's heart skipped a beat. She looked at Ling Zhao warily. How about you give me the light jade pendant on your waist? Ling Zhao's eyes flashed as he looked at the dragon-shaped jade pendant on Di Hongwan's waist. The dragon-shaped jade pendant was emitting a dazzling radiance, as if it was emitting an immeasurable amount of light. It looked mysterious and unfathomable. Other than that, there was nothing special about it. However, Di Hongwan's expression changed drastically after hearing Ling Zhao's words. You want my light jade pendant? Don't even think about it. Di Hongwan gritted her teeth and said. Ling Zhao was too despicable. The light jade pendant on her waist could be said to be her most precious treasure. It was a defensive treasure left behind by the immortal emperor of the light immortal court. It was extremely powerful. Not only could it defend against an immortal emperor's attack, but it could also unleash an attack comparable to an immortal emperor's attack. Ling Zhao had already taken a treasure from her. Now he wanted to take away her only light jade pendant. Di Hongwan glared at Ling Zhao. She looked very cute. If you don't want to, then be my maid. Ling Zhao said with a smile. Ling Zhao, you bastard. Di Hongwan was furious. However, she could not really be Ling Zhao's maid. Otherwise, she would not be able to become the Light Emperor's lord in the future. Her father and brother would not forgive her. Di Hongwan had no choice but to take the jade pendant off her waist and hand it to Ling Zhao angrily. This radiant jade pendant can defend against an attack from an immortal emperor. Moreover, it can unleash an attack comparable to an immortal emperor. Don't waste it. This is our greatest defensive trump card in the Heavenly Dao Ancient Battlefield. I feel that the Heavenly Ancient Battlefield is not simple. I'm afraid something big is going to happen. Di Hongwan was afraid that Ling Zhao did not know what was good for him, so she explained. At the same time, she looked around uneasily. Although the army of darkness had retreated, for some reason, Di Hongwan felt a spine-chilling aura ripple. Don't worry. Since I asked you for this jade pendant, I naturally know its value. Ling Zhao's words infuriated Di Hongwan. Di Hongwan snorted and turned away, ignoring Ling Xiao. At the same time, the battle was nearing its end. Crown Prince Li Wuji and Second Prince Li Wushuang led many experts of the Immortal Court of Fortune to launch a one-sided massacre of the dark creatures. Countless dark creatures were killed, and the remaining dark creatures fled in all directions. Everyone from the Celestial Court of Creation was smiling after surviving a disaster. They looked at Ling Xiao and Di Hongwan with deep gratitude. They knew that if Ling Xiao and Di Hongwan hadn't arrived in time, they would have probably died today. Thank you, Senior Ling Xiao, for saving my life. Crown Prince Li Wuji bowed deeply to Ling Xiao and said solemnly, Your Highness, there's no need to be so courteous. Since I've followed you to the Heavenly Dao ancient battlefield, I'll naturally protect you. Ling Xiao said indifferently. Thank you, Senior Ling Xiao. Second Prince Li Wushuang looked a little embarrassed, but he still cupped his hands at Ling Xiao. Although he looked cold on the surface, he was envious of Crown Prince Li Wuji. He didn't expect Li Wuji to be able to recruit such a supreme expert like Ling Xiao. Even such a powerful dark quasi-immortal emperor had died in Ling Xiao's hands. In this case, he wouldn't have to fear anyone from the Truth Celestial Court. At this moment, Crown Prince Li Wuji's eyes flashed, and he said with a strange expression, Senior Ling Xiao, I received a call for help from the Truth Celestial Court and the Great Yen Celestial Court at the same time. A call for help from the Truth Celestial Court and the Great Yen Celestial Court? The Truth Celestial Court is so powerful. Did they also fall into the dark creature's army? Second Prince Li Wushuang said with a strange expression. Indeed. Ning Shukong and Yin Hongya encountered a group of powerful dark quasi-immortal emperors and an endless army of dark creatures. Crown Prince Li Wuji said slowly. Isn't that great? We can kill with a borrowed knife. If those bastards from the Truth Celestial Court die in the hands of the dark quasi-immortal emperors, we won't have to do anything. As for the Great Yen Celestial Court, although they seem to be neutral, they have a lot of conflicts with the Truth Celestial Court. We have no obligation to save them. Second Prince Li Wushuang said with a cold smile. That being said, the Truth Celestial Court and the Great Yen Celestial Court have found a place of inheritance of a supreme immortal emperor. It's very likely that there's an eternal emperor weapon in it. Ning Shukong and Yin Hongya told me that if I can save them, they're willing to let me choose a treasure in the place of inheritance first. Crown Prince Li Wuji said slowly. The place of inheritance of an immortal emperor? The Truth Celestial Court and the Great Yen Celestial Court are really lucky. Second Prince Li Wushuang said with a cold smile. However, anyone could hear that there was a trace of jealousy in his voice. After all, the place of inheritance of an immortal emperor must contain countless supreme treasures. Not to mention whether there was a complete eternal emperor weapon, just the immortal scriptures of an immortal emperor's inheritance were supreme treasures. Senior Ling Xiao, do you think we should save them? I'll listen to you. If you agree to go, the treasure in the immortal emperor's inheritance will belong to you. Crown Prince Li Wuji said respectfully to Ling Xiao. The place of inheritance of an immortal emperor? What a coincidence. Let's go and take a look. No matter what, the army of dark creatures has been mobilizing so frequently. Something big must have happened. Even if we don't save them, we still need to find out the true purpose of the army of dark creatures. Ling Zhao's eyes flashed as he said slowly. Yes. Senior, you're so thoughtful. Crown Prince Li Wuji said with a smile. Whoosh. Whoosh. Under Crown Prince Li Wuji's lead, Ling Xiao, Di Hongwan, Second Prince Li Wushuang, and many experts of the Creation Celestial Court flew toward the Truth Celestial Court and the Great Yen Celestial Court. Tens of thousands of experts of the Truth Celestial Court and the Great Yen Celestial Court were trapped in a huge desert. They also worked together to cast a powerful barrier that shrouded the void and protected many experts. At the same time, they were constantly fighting against the dark creatures. However, There were 9 extremely powerful dark quasi-immortal emperors in the void. Each of them was extremely powerful, and they emitted an unparalleled aura that locked onto Ning Shukong, Yin Hongye, and the others below. At this moment, Ning Shukong's face was a little ugly. He had many plans before. He wanted to destroy everyone in the Great Yin Celestial Court and the Creation Celestial Court, and then let the Truth Celestial Court monopolize the fruit of Tao. However, before he could start his plan, the dark creatures began to riot. They and all the experts of the Great Yin Celestial Court were trapped here. They even had to join forces to fight against the Dark Army. Ning Shukong and Yin Hongye had successfully broken through to the quasi-immortal Emperor realm, and were extremely powerful. However, the 9 dark quasi-immortal emperors were even more terrifying. Ning Shukong and Yin Hongye, who had just broken through to the quasi-immortal Emperor realm, could not be compared to them at all. Therefore, they were fiercely suppressed by the dark quasi-immortal emperors. They were even surrounded by danger. Chapter 3473. Rumble. The surrounding void trembled violently. The 9 dark half-immortal emperors were like 9 black suns, emitting endless black divine light. Dark mist rose in the surroundings, the void trembled, and cracks appeared in the void, devouring the lives of countless experts. The aftershock of the 9 dark half-immortal emperors had already killed hundreds of immortal kings. The people of the Great Yin Immortal Court and the Truth Immortal Court were in grave danger. After all, the Truth Immortal Court only had Ning Shukong, Bai Qingxue, Bai Qingshuang, and the young man with the ancient sword on his back. As for the Great Yin Immortal Court, they only had 2 half-immortal emperors, Yin Hongye and Zhou Yuan. The 6 half-immortal emperors had just broken through not long ago. Among the 9 dark half-immortal emperors, even the weakest one had reached the 5th heaven of the half-immortal emperor realm. The strongest one among them had even reached the 7th heaven of the half-immortal emperor realm. His strength was extremely powerful and brought them great pressure. Although Ning Shukong and Yin Hongye had various treasures and trump cards from the 2 immortal courts, they were soon at a disadvantage in the face of the 9 dark half-immortal emperors. Kacha. A dark thunderbolt exploded. The strongest dark half-immortal emperor was like a ferocious primordial demon, tens of thousands of feet tall. The unparalleled dark divine light instantly tore apart the defensive barrier in front of Ning Shukong, and then violently slammed into his body. Ning Shukong's body shook violently, and he was sent flying. His face was extremely pale, and even a little ugly. Your Highness, did the people of the Creation Immortal Court agree to come to our rescue? Bai Qingshuang asked. I don't know, but we can't put all our hopes on the Creation Immortal Court. We have to think of a way to deal with the 9 dark half-immortal emperors. Otherwise, I'm afraid we won't be able to escape today. Ning Shukong said slowly, and there was a hint of ruthlessness in his eyes. Then Ning Shukong looked at Yin Hongye and said, Princess Hongye, I know you must have a trump card left by the Great Yin Immortal Court. I have a treasure that can withstand the full blow of an immortal emperor, but it's only a defensive treasure, not an offensive treasure. Next, I can help you block the most powerful attack of the 9 dark half-immortal emperors. I wonder if your trump card can kill the dark half-immortal emperors and open a safe passage for us? Yin Hongye hesitated for a bit before answering. I do have a treasure. It can't exert the power of an immortal emperor, but it's not far off. Very well. Ning Shukong's body trembled, and a trace of excitement appeared in his eyes. I need 10 breaths of time to prepare. If I can kill a few dark half-immortal emperors, we should be able to escape from this army of darkness creatures. Yin Hongye. 10 breaths. No problem. Princess Hongye, you can do whatever you want. Next, even if I die, I'll hold them off for you for 10 breaths. There was a hint of determination in Ning Shukong's eyes. Rumble. Ning Shukong was surrounded by dazzling immortal light. An ancient and mysterious rune appeared in his palm. The rune was like a dazzling sun, blooming in the 9 heavens. In an instant, it turned into an ancient cauldron with 3 legs and 2 handles. It was emitting an ancient and mysterious aura. Although the aura looked incomparably illusory, it was emitting a vast and eternal heavenly Tao might. The cauldron with 3 legs and 2 ears completely protected Ning Xiukong and Yan Hongya. At the same time, Yan Hongya's eyes were filled with a hint of madness. She formed a seal with both of her hands. Dazzling celestial light bloomed, and runes rose into the air, forming a mysterious ancient mirror in front of her. In an instant, the heavens and earth trembled violently. The ancient mirror emitted a terrifying aura that could devour everything. Like a black hole, it kept devouring the vast energy in the surroundings. Even the dark energy was devoured by the ancient mirror. At the same time, the ancient mirror became increasingly solid in the void. A destructive aura gradually erupted from it. Oh no! Kill them! The eyes of the most powerful dark quasi-immortal emperor flashed with killing intent, and he suddenly shouted. He could sense that the ancient mirror that Yan Hongya had summoned was the mark of an eternal emperor weapon. It could unleash the full power of an eternal emperor weapon. Its power was extremely terrifying. If the attack was unleashed, at least 1 or 2 of the 9 dark quasi-immortal emperors would be killed. At this moment, even Ning Xiukong had a strange look in his eyes. The mirror of life and death? He immediately recognized the ancient mirror that Yan Hongya had summoned. It was the mirror of life and death, the eternal emperor weapon of the great Yan immortal court. It was rumored that once the mirror of life and death appeared, it could determine life and death, divide yin and yang, split the heavens and earth, and destroy the world. Ning Xiukong's guess was right. As the eldest princess of the great Yan immortal court, Yan Hongya was extremely talented. She must have some trump cards that the great Yan immortal court had left for her. Among them, the biggest possibility was the mark of the mirror of life and death. Rumble. At the same time, the 9 dark quasi-immortal emperors also attacked at the same time. 9 strange and terrifying dark rays burst out and landed on the 3-legged, 2-eared cauldron in an instant. Dazzling immortal light exploded. The cauldron trembled violently as if it would shatter at any time. There was also a hint of anxiety in Ning Xiukong's eyes. The cauldron was the strongest defensive treasure he had. It was also the mark of an eternal emperor weapon. If the 3-legged, 2-eared cauldron's shadow was shattered, and the power of the cycle of life and death was not activated, then he and Yan Hongya would very likely be besieged by the 9 dark quasi-immortal emperors. At that time, they would most likely die. Kill. At the same time, Zhou Yuan, Bai Qingxue, Bai Qingshuang, and the young man with the ancient sword on his back roared and charged toward the 9 dark quasi-immortal emperors at the same time. They wanted to distract them and buy time for Yan Hongya. Rumble. Violent explosions continued to resound in the void. Although Zhou Yuan and the other 3 were very strong, they had just broken through to the quasi-immortal emperor realm not long ago. They were no match for the 9 dark quasi-immortal emperors. They were directly sent flying. Their bodies shook violently as they coughed up blood. At the same time, cracks began to appear on the 3-legged, 2-eared cauldron. In the end, it completely shattered with a loud bang. Ning Xiukong's expression changed drastically. At the same time, the mirror of life and death had also devoured enough power. It was like a dazzling sun, blooming with dazzling immortal light above the 9 heavens. The 9 dark quasi-immortal emperors suddenly felt a chill down their spines. They felt an incomparably cold murderous intent. In an instant, they wanted to flee into the distance. Boom. The power of the mirror of life and death was completely activated. A dazzling beam of immortal Tao light bloomed, and completely shrouded the 9 dark quasi-immortal emperors in front of it. At this moment, Ning Xiukong and the others' eyes were filled with incomparable excitement. The 9 dark quasi-immortal emperors, on the other hand, were a little desperate. Being targeted by such a terrifying eternal emperor weapon, they would most likely be severely injured even if they did not die. Chapter 3474. Kacha. However, at this moment, the void was torn apart, an endless dark divine light rose up. A huge dark boundary appeared in front of the 9 dark quasi-immortal emperors, completely blocking the fatal attack of the mirror of life and death. A figure shrouded in darkness appeared in front of the 9 dark quasi-immortal emperors, exuding the aura of the origin of darkness. He was like a supreme ruler, exuding an energy fluctuation that made one's heart tremble. Your Highness. The 9 dark quasi-immortal emperors were overjoyed after surviving a calamity. Their eyes were filled with fanatical worship as they knelt down and saluted. That figure was the Dark Prince. Boom! The Dark Prince waved his hand, and suddenly, endless dark divine light bloomed, completely annihilating the brilliant immortal Tao light beam. At this moment, Ning Xiukong and Yan Hongye's faces were completely pale. Although they did not know the origin of the Dark Prince, they could see how terrifying and powerful the Dark Prince was from the fact that he could easily break the full-force attack of the Mirror of Life and Death. At the same time, Ning Xiukong also saw the ancient dark ring on the Dark Prince's finger, which exuded a heart-palpitating dark aura. The Dark Emperor weapon. Ning Xiukong's body trembled, and he could not help but exclaim. The Dark Emperor weapon was the natal divine weapon refined by the Dark Immortal Emperor, and its power was comparable to an Eternal Emperor weapon. Due to the uniqueness of the Heavenly Tao ancient battlefield, Ning Xiukong and Yan Hongye did not bring their Eternal Emperor weapons this time. After all, the Eternal Emperor weapon was the supreme treasure that suppressed the fate of the Immortal Court, and it would not leave the Immortal Court easily. However, how could they resist the Dark Prince who had the Dark Emperor weapon? At this moment, even the scheming Ning Xiukong could not help but feel a little desperate. Are there only people from the 2 Immortal Courts? Where are the people from the Creation Immortal Court? The Dark Prince glanced indifferently at Ning Xiukong and Yan Hongye, and said slowly, as if he knew the 3 Immortal Courts very well. The strongest Dark Quasi-Immortal Emperor immediately said respectfully, "Your Highness, the 3 Immortal Courts are not in the same place. It took us a lot of effort to lure the people from the Celestial Court of Truth and Great Yin Immortal Court here. As for the members of the Celestial Court of Creation, they've been surrounded by Kuei Jun's group. I think we'll be able to capture all of them in a few days." However, at this moment, a cold light suddenly flashed in Prince Dark's eyes as he said indifferently, "Kuei Jun has been killed by the people of the Immortal Court of Creation. I wonder if the people of the Immortal Court of Creation will dare to come here." At that moment, the Dark Prince suddenly sensed that Kuei Jun's aura had completely disappeared. Clearly, the entire Kuei army had been annihilated. What? The 9 great dark half-immortal emperors were both shocked and furious. They couldn't help but cry out in surprise. One should know that Kuei Jun's strength was not weak. He had already reached the 6th heavenly layer of the Dark Quasi-Immortal Emperor realm. Was there someone in the Fortune Immortal Court who had such strength to kill Kuei Jun? They're already here. A sharp glint flashed in Prince Darkness's eyes as he suddenly looked at the distant void. Crack! 2 dazzling immortal lights tore through the void and came from afar. They instantly arrived above the endless army of dark creatures. They were a handsome and elegant young man, and a beautiful young woman. The young man had an imposing appearance and was incomparably handsome. Chaotic light rose around him, as if there was an endless scene of the birth and death of the world. He looked mysterious and powerful. It was Ling Xiao. As for the girl, she was shrouded in endless light as if she was the embodiment of light. Her face was beautiful and peerless, making people unable to forget her for a long time. At the same time, there was a trace of a sovereign and a graceful and luxurious temperament, just like a peerless empress. It was Di Hongwan. Ling Xiao and Di Hongwan's eyes flashed as they saw the situation in front of them clearly. The people of the Truth Immortal Court and the Great Yin Immortal Court seemed to be in a bad situation. There were actually 10 powerful dark quasi-immortal emperors in front of them. Especially the leader, Prince Darkness, who gave Ling Xiao an extremely dangerous feeling. He was even more dangerous than the 7th heavenly layer of the half-immortal emperor realm. Ling Xiao also instantly noticed the dark ring on Crown Prince Darkness's finger, and his expression became serious. With a complete Dark Emperor weapon, this Prince Darkness must be the strongest and most dangerous of the dark creatures in the army of dark creatures. Should we save them or not? Ling Xiao and Di Hongwan looked at each other, and saw the hesitation in each other's eyes. Fellow Taoists, please save us for the sake that we're all humans. There is an immortal emperor's inheritance here. If you are willing to save us, we are willing to give you all the treasures in the place of inheritance. And we will also reward you handsomely. Ning Xiukong looked at Ling Xiao and Di Hongwan with great sincerity. That's right, fellow cultivators. I can testify that there is indeed an immortal emperor's inheritance here. Fellow cultivators, please put aside our personal grudges and work together to fight against the dark creatures. Otherwise, if they break out of the heavenly Tao ancient battlefield, the eternal immortal domain will be plunged into misery and suffering. At that time, the 3 immortal courts will be the first to bear the brunt. Yin Hongya also said solemnly. She seemed to be afraid that Ling Xiao and Di Hongwan would ignore the grudges between the Celestial Court of Truth and the Celestial Court of Creation. That was why she was trying to rope them in under the guise of righteousness. Rumble. At the same time, beams of dazzling divine light shot out from behind Ling Xiao and Di Hongwan. It was Crown Prince Li Wuji and Second Prince Li Wushuang. They had arrived with many experts from the Celestial Court of Creation. However, Crown Prince Li Wuji and Second Prince Li Wushuang's expressions changed when they saw the scene before them. In particular, the 10 powerful quasi-immortal emperors made them want to retreat. Senior Ling Xiao, let's retreat for now. This place is beyond our control. Let's leave the heavenly Tao ancient battlefield first, and inform the 3 immortal courts to prepare for the invasion of the dark creatures. Crown Prince Li Wuji hurriedly transmitted to Ling Xiao. Don't you think it's too late to leave now? Since the 3 immortal courts are all here, it'll save me the trouble of killing all of you in one fell swoop. Crown Prince Dark seemed to have seen through Li Wuji and Li Wushuang's thoughts. He sneered, his eyes filled with cruel killing intent. With a wave of his hand, the quasi-immortal emperors and the army of dark creatures locked onto everyone from the Celestial Court of Creation. At the same time, a mysterious dark energy erupted from Crown Prince Dark's body and locked onto Ling Xiao, Di Hongwan, Li Wuji and Li Wushuang. At this moment, Crown Prince Li Wuji's heart sank and his face turned extremely ugly. Things had gotten troublesome. It was too late for them to leave even if they wanted to. Chapter 3475. Rumble. Between heaven and earth, the void shook, and dark divine light surged. It contained strange, gloomy, cold, and other oppressive aura fluctuations, causing one to tremble. There was an endless army of dark creatures in all directions. Among them, there were many dark experts with terrifying auras. In particular, the Prince of Darkness and the 9 dark quasi-immortal emperors made everyone's faces turn ugly, and they were terrified. Although there were nearly 20,000 celestial kings in the 3 celestial courts, and there were several quasi-immortal emperors among them, their strength was still inferior to the army of dark creatures in front of them. Prince Li Wuji, Second Prince Li Wushuang, and the others felt extremely uncomfortable when they felt the killing intent of the dark quasi-immortal emperors and the army of dark creatures. They all knew that they would not be able to escape today. Prince Li Wuji in particular had a trace of self-blame in his eyes. If he had not been tempted by the so-called land of the immortal emperor's inheritance, he would not have led everyone into this dangerous place. Leave the Prince of Darkness to me, and leave the others to you. Can you hold on? Ling Xiao's eyes flashed as he said slowly. Senior Ling Xiao, the Prince of Darkness has an extremely powerful Dark Emperor weapon. You must be careful. Prince Li Wuji said solemnly. Ling Xiao, this Prince of Darkness is not easy to deal with. You must not be careless. As for the others, you can rest assured that with me around, none of them can disturb you at all. Di Hongwan smiled proudly. I'm not afraid that they will disturb me, but I'm afraid that you can't hold on. Don't die in the hands of the 9 dark quasi-immortal emperors. Ling Xiao glanced at Di Hongwan and said slowly, You're looking down on us too much. Ling Xiao, after I kill the 9 dark quasi-immortal emperors, you can't ask me to save you. Di Hongwan said through gritted teeth. Human clan ant, aren't you afraid of death? A cold light flashed in the eyes of the dark quasi-immortal emperor as he stared at Ling Xiao and said coldly. He did not expect Ling Xiao to be so arrogant. He did not want to escape at this time, but was determined to fight him alone. He even divided the opponents with just a few words. This made the Prince of Darkness feel greatly offended. He was the incomparably noble Crown Prince of Darkness. Even a darkness quasi-immortal emperor had to kneel and tremble in front of him. Even the dark immortal emperor had to give him some face. It was because its identity was too special. Among the countless creatures of darkness, it was known as the future Lord of Darkness. Therefore, in his eyes, a person like Ling Xiao should have a look of fear on his face, trembling all over, and running away, or kneeling down and begging for mercy. That should be the most normal reaction. But he never thought that Ling Xiao would actually be determined to fight with him. You talk too much nonsense. You are not the darkness, immortal emperor. Even if you are, so what? Let's see who's the real deal. Fight. Ling Xiao said coldly. Battle intent surged in his eyes as blazing divine light erupted from his body. Ling Xiao could sense that the Dark Prince was extremely powerful. His cultivation had already reached the 6th heaven of the half-immortal emperor realm. Furthermore, he possessed a powerful darkness imperial armament. Even an expert at the 9th heaven of the half-immortal emperor realm wouldn't dare to say that he could win against the Dark Prince. Ling Xiao felt great pressure from the Dark Prince, which stimulated his battle intent even more. Rumble. The void in all directions trembled violently. Ling Xiao was surrounded by the cries of dragons, phoenixes, cheilants, and white tigers. All kinds of mysterious immortal beasts appeared behind him. Great worlds were opened up and universes were shattered. Those mysterious scenes provided him with boundless power. He suddenly punched out. The unparalleled fist print was like a dazzling sun. It also seemed to have the power of 10,000 worlds. It locked the void in all directions and completely enveloped the Dark Prince. Kacha. Before the fist had even landed, the terrifying ripples of aura instantly filled the surrounding 10,000 kilometers. Countless creatures of darkness exploded, turning into the densest source of darkness. Just the aftershocks alone had killed tens of thousands of dark creatures. You are courting death. The Dark Prince's eyes were filled with blood light. His figure flashed and he also punched out. Rumble. His fist print was filled with a layer of dark light. At the same time, the ring also emitted a deep light. Runes enveloped his body, giving him an invincible aura that could destroy everything. Kacha. The two fist prints collided in the void. In an instant, intense immortal light gushed out as if billions of thunderbolts had exploded at the same time. That terrifying loud sound made everyone in the surroundings feel dizzy. They saw stars and their blood boiled as they retreated continuously. Their eyes were filled with incomparable horror. The power caused by the fight between Ling Xiao and the Dark Prince was too terrifying. In the void, Ling Xiao and the Dark Prince both trembled violently and retreated at the same time. They were actually evenly matched. Buzz. An incomparably crisp sword cry rang out. The sky-devouring sword emitted billions of rays of light, and came from afar. It was like a waterfall that was hundreds of millions of miles long, about to slash open heaven and earth. It slashed down toward the Dark Prince. A sharp light flashed in the Dark Prince's eyes. His finger was like a sword. A ray of dark divine light rose up and collided with the sky-devouring sword. Ling Xiao's body was surrounded by immortal light. He took a step forward and instantly teleported thousands of miles across the void. He arrived in front of the sky-devouring sword. Holding the sky-devouring sword in his hand, an incomparably sharp sword light slashed down. That sword light contained the power to destroy everything, as if it was going to completely destroy heaven and earth. This was the supreme emperor art of the three swords of origin. It was so stunning that the Dark Prince's eyes flashed involuntarily. Boom. The Dark Prince also punched out. The Dark Emperor weapon ring seemed to provide him with endless power, making his fist as violent as the Dark Emperor weapon. The incomparably sharp sword light was shattered by his punch. Your strength is not weak. You are worthy of my full strength. The Dark Prince stared at Ling Xiao and said coldly. His eyes revealed a trace of seriousness. He could see that Ling Xiao had just broken through to the quasi-immortal emperor realm, but his combat strength was incomparably terrifying. It made him feel a strong threat. This also aroused the Dark Prince's interest. If you want to fight, then let's fight. Today you will die without a doubt. Ling Xiao's eyes were incomparably cold. With the sky-devouring sword in his hand, sword chi surged around his body. The sword will spread out, as if it was opening up small worlds one after another, and then shattering them again and again. In the endless chaotic light, sword chi rose. Ling Xiao was like an immortal emperor, controlling fate, life, and death, controlling the life and death of all living things. Chapter 3476. How arrogant. Don't worry, I won't kill you. I'll use the darkness origin to erase your intelligence and turn you into my dark puppet. You'll be my slave for billions of years, never to be reincarnated. A trace of cruelty flashed in the Dark Prince's eyes. He took 3 steps forward, each step seeming to land on the center of heaven and earth. The entire heavenly Tao ancient battlefield trembled violently. A terrifying aura erupted from the Dark Prince's body, one that could destroy everything. Dark judgment killing fists. Prince of Darkness suddenly roared, and then instantly threw 3 punches at Ling Xiao. The 3 fists were like 3 dark suns, blooming in the void. The first fist contained an unparalleled suppressive force that would completely suppress Ling Xiao's body. The second fist mark contained boundless illusions, within which the heavens would be destroyed, and darkness would cover the eternal immortal domains. All living beings would sink into oblivion, and would never be able to rise again. It was clearly designed to crush Ling Xiao's Tao heart. The third fist contained boundless dark killing intent that would drag Ling Xiao's soul into the darkness, never to be reincarnated. The moment these 3 fist marks were unleashed, it was as if a puny mortal was facing an incomparably powerful deity. The god wanted to judge the world and punish all living beings, while the puny mortals were powerless to resist. All they could do was scream and beg for mercy. This was the Dark Judgment killing fists. This was the supreme fist technique that the Dark Prince had cultivated, inherited from an extremely ancient Dark Immortal Emperor. Legend had it that the Dark Immortal Emperor had almost destroyed all living beings in the eternal immortal domains, and allowed darkness to rule the eternal immortal domains. Ling Xiao's eyes flashed with a sharp light. His battle intent soared, and his body bloomed with dazzling radiance. Sword Qi rose from the heaven-devouring sword in his hand, like the light that would shatter the endless darkness and illuminate the world. Great light illuminating immortal sword. This was an incomparably powerful forbidden technique from the Light Immortal Emperor's inheritance. Ling Xiao felt an enormous pressure in the face of the Dark Judgment killing fists. It felt as if his soul and Tao heart were about to collapse. If it was other quasi-immortal emperors, they could only wait for death when facing these 3 fist imprints that could destroy everything. Boundless light blossomed in Ling Xiao's eyes. The world tree sprinkled down rays of light that were impenetrable and untainted by anything. The mysterious and holy light instantly purged the dark qi of slaughter and judgment. Therefore, Ling Xiao was only affected for a moment, and immediately counterattacked. The great light illuminating celestial sword bloomed above the 9 heavens like endless flames of light burning fiercely, while the vast aura of darkness in the surroundings melted away like snow. The sword light slashed down from the sky and collided with the 3 ferocious fists. Rumble! In an instant, endless divine light gushed out. Cracks appeared in the void as blazing light burst out. Ling Xiao and the Dark Crown Prince both felt the blood in their bodies churning as they instantly retreated. However, both Ling Xiao and the Black Flame Crown Prince had a crazed look in their eyes. Their fighting spirit soared, causing the surrounding void to tremble violently. In the next moment, both of them roared at the same time, and then charged at each other at the same time. In everyone's eyes, Ling Xiao and the Dark Crown Prince seemed to have turned into a golden and a dark ball of light, constantly colliding in the void. In an instant, they had exchanged dozens of blows, each of which was incomparably fierce, causing the quasi-immortal emperors and the 9 dark quasi-immortal emperors below to tremble. At the same time, Di Hongwan, the Crown Prince Li Wuji, the Second Prince Li Wushuang, Ning Xiukong, Yan Hongya, and the other quasi-immortal emperors also charged at the 9 dark quasi-immortal emperors. From a certain point of view, although this army of dark creatures appeared to be imposing and majestic, with unparalleled killing intent, and the number of dark creatures was innumerable, boundless and endless, like densely packed ants, the dark creatures seemed to be innumerable. However, the most powerful forces were naturally the Dark Crown Prince and the 9 dark quasi-immortal emperors. Now, the Dark Crown Prince was fighting fiercely with Ling Xiao, and the 9 dark quasi-immortal emperors were also stopped by Di Hongwan and the others. As for the other dark creatures, They did not pose much of a threat to the people of the three immortal courts. The three immortal courts formed a battle formation, forming a boundary, and erupted with great defensive and offensive power. They fought fiercely with the dark creatures around them, and in the blink of an eye, countless dark creatures were slaughtered. However, although the dark creatures were killed, they turned into an extremely dense darkness origin, which continuously merged into the bodies of the Dark Crown Prince and the 9 dark quasi-immortal emperors, causing their auras to become stronger and stronger. Therefore, except for Di Honghuan, Ning Xiukong and Yan Hongya, who were stronger and fought the 3 most powerful dark quasi-immortal emperors, the others were caught in a bitter battle, and even faintly showed signs of being at a disadvantage. You've learned the great light illuminating immortal sword? Humph, this immortal emperor forbidden technique can only be unleashed with my light sovereign physique's greatest power. Di Honghuan noticed the great light illuminating immortal sword that Ling Xiao had used, and immediately said to herself proudly and unwillingly, "Rumble!" Endless radiant immortal light bloomed around her, and the light sovereign physique was completely activated by her. She seemed to have received the support of a peerless immortal emperor, and her entire body bloomed with endless radiance. The light sword in her hand was also extremely sharp. Under her control, it instantly turned into a ray of radiant immortal light that cut through the sky and slashed toward the dark quasi-immortal emperor in front of her. Light was the nemesis of darkness, not to mention that Di Honghuan also had the supreme light sovereign physique. She used the light sovereign physique to activate the great light illuminating immortal sword, making the sword's power extremely terrifying. Pucci, the dark quasi-immortal emperor's eyes were filled with incomparable horror and disbelief. He raised the huge mace in his hand, wanting to block the attack, but it was directly shattered by a dazzling immortal light. Even his body was blasted apart by the sword. Di Honghuan's eyes were cold and battle intent rose. The sword of light in her hand gave off waves of incomparable desire and excitement. Several beams of sword of light slashed down like an endless storm of sword chi, completely destroying the primordial spirit of the dark quasi-immortal emperor. A dark quasi-immortal emperor died in her hands just like that. Crown Prince Li Wuji, Second Prince Li Wushuang, Ning Xiukong, Yan Hongya, and the others looked at Di Honghuan with incomparable excitement and shock in their eyes. She was indeed the little princess of the light immortal court. She was indeed someone with the light sovereign physique. Her strength was simply too strong. They saw hope in defeating the army of darkness from Di Honghuan. Kill! Di Honghuan shouted softly. After killing a dark quasi-immortal emperor, her confidence soared. The light sword in her hand was extremely sharp, and in an instant, it traversed the void for thousands of miles and attacked another powerful dark quasi-immortal emperor. Chapter 3477. The void trembled and thunder roared. The sky trembled violently as cracks appeared in the void. Terrifying turbulence flowed out from the cracks, as if it could wipe out everything. Ling Xiao and the Prince of Darkness were like 2 resplendent suns, constantly colliding. Every time they collided, a storm of divine light would erupt like a tsunami, annihilating everything. Countless creatures of darkness were completely killed. Ling Xiao used the great light illuminating immortal sword. Sword chi rose around him, and the sky-devouring sword slashed at Prince of Darkness. Light was the nemesis of darkness. Although Prince of Darkness's dark judgment fist Dao was extremely powerful, it melted like snow in front of the great light illuminating immortal sword. Rumble! Sword chi swept across the void for hundreds of millions of miles. Every slash caused the space-time to tremble violently. It was as if countless worlds were being annihilated, and countless creatures were being born. The scene was extremely terrifying. The great light illuminating immortal sword was like a dazzling light that could illuminate all things, enveloping Prince of Darkness. Prince of Darkness was also incomparably powerful. Dark divine light rose from his body and clashed with the great light illuminating immortal sword, shooting out countless dazzling sparks. He's only a first heaven quasi-immortal emperor, but he can erupt with such powerful battle strength. It seems that he must be the leader of the younger generation in the eternal immortal domain. If I can kill him, it will be a great blow to the eternal immortal domain. so I can't let him leave today. Prince of Darkness's eyes were filled with killing intent. His face was incomparably cold as he thought to himself. Ling Zhao's powerful battle prowess shocked even him to the core. Buzz. The void trembled slightly. The dark ring in Prince of Darkness's hand bloomed with mysterious and dazzling light, enveloping Prince of Darkness in an instant. In an instant, Prince of Darkness's aura soared, exuding an ancient and terrifying aura. His strength seemed to have increased by 100 times in an instant. You're indeed very strong, but this is the end of it. It's your honor to be killed by the Dark Emperor weapon. Now accept your fate. Prince of Darkness's eyes were filled with killing intent. His entire person was incomparably cold as he suddenly slapped at Ling Xiao. At the same time, the dark ring emitted an endless amount of dark light. It turned into a beam of dark light that could penetrate everything and attacked Ling Xiao in an instant. The beam of darkness contained the power to destroy all life. It was terrifying to the extreme. At this moment, even Ling Xiao's body trembled. His eyes were filled with an incomparably grave expression. The Darkness Emperor weapon contained the Darkness Immortal Emperor's origin power, and was as powerful as an Eternal Emperor weapon. That beam of dark light seemed to be the Darkness Immortal Emperor's all-out attack, causing Ling Xiao to feel chills all over his body, as if his primordial spirit had been frozen. Crack! The moment the dark beam shot out, Ling Xiao had already used his extreme speed, wanting to avoid this attack. However, the Dark Emperor weapon had already locked onto Ling Xiao. The beam of darkness enveloped this part of the void. Just the aftermath of the beam of darkness instantly penetrated the bodies of hundreds of celestial kings, completely melting them. It was as if they had turned into a part of the darkness. It was extremely terrifying. Light flickered in Ling Xiao's palm, and the dragon-shaped jade pendant appeared. In an instant, bright golden light rose up and turned into divine chains of order. They intertwined around Ling Xiao, forming an extremely powerful defensive boundary that protected him within. Rumble. The beam of darkness collided with the golden boundary, producing an earth-shattering sound. The void suddenly cracked open. Ling Xiao's entire body seemed to be swallowed by the void turbulence, and he directly entered the endless dark turbulence. As for the beam of darkness, it constantly destroyed the golden boundary around Ling Xiao. In the end, the beam of darkness disappeared due to the exhaustion of its power. However, the golden boundary around Ling Xiao also became extremely dim. It was likely that it would completely shatter after taking another hit. The dragon-shaped jade pendant was a defensive treasure that Di Hongwan had given to Ling Xiao. Ling Xiao had not expected the Dark Emperor weapon to be so powerful that its beam of darkness could penetrate everything. Without the protection of the jade pendant, even Ling Xiao's peerlessly strong body would not have been able to withstand the beam of darkness. You have a defensive treasure left behind by an immortal emperor. It seems that your status in the eternal immortal domain is not ordinary. However, this is the ancient battlefield of the heavenly Tao. Even an immortal emperor cannot save you. Today I, the Crown Prince, will kill you. No one can save you. The Crown Prince of Darkness sneered, his eyes filled with icy killing intent. Boom. He activated the dark ring again. The Dark Emperor weapon exuded the boundless might of the heavenly Tao of darkness, as if it could destroy 10,000 layers of the universe in an instant. Another beam of incomparably terrifying dark light shot towards Ling Xiao. Ling Xiao's eyes flashed sharply. Holding the heaven-devouring sword, he erupted with dazzling immortal light. Without dodging, he slashed his sword at the beam of darkness. Boom. The heaven-devouring sword seemed to have been activated. Mysterious runes of the great Tao gushed out from it, containing vast and ethereal energy fluctuations. The power of the sword seemed to have increased by dozens of times in an instant. It was completely sublimated to the extreme. It collided with the beam of darkness. Crack! The surrounding void turbulence trembled violently, forming all kinds of mysterious and unfathomable scenes. Although Ling Xiao's sword was incomparably sharp, it only blocked part of the beam of darkness. In the end, the defensive boundary formed by the dragon-shaped jade pendant was still struck by the beam of darkness and shattered with a loud bang. Then Ling Xiao's entire body was enveloped by a dense origin of darkness. Oh no! At this moment, Di Hongyuan saw this scene from afar. Her entire body shook violently, and her eyes were filled with anxiety and worry. She knew that Ling Xiao was very powerful. Even a peak quasi-immortal emperor expert might not be able to kill him. However, the Crown Prince of Darkness's strength was unfathomable. With the help of the Dark Emperor weapon, Ling Xiao was no match for the Crown Prince of Darkness. Seeing that Ling Xiao was in danger, Di Hongyuan's heart involuntarily rose to her throat. Senior Ling Xiao, you must block it. Otherwise, I'm afraid everyone from the 3 celestial courts will die here. Crown Prince Li Wuji and Second Prince Li Wushuang looked at each other. Their eyes were filled with worry, especially Second Prince Li Wushuang. At this moment, it seemed that he did not care about Ling Xiao at all. He even hoped that Ling Xiao's strength would be as strong as possible. It would be best if he could create a miracle and completely kill the Crown Prince of Darkness. The Crown Prince of Darkness was too strong. He was so strong that Crown Prince Li Wuji, Second Prince Li Wushuang, Di Hongyuan, Ning Shukong, Yan Hongya, and the other supreme talents all felt a deep sense of powerlessness. Now, only Ling Xiao could fight with the Crown Prince of Darkness. Rumble. The origin of darkness surged violently as if it contained a life of its own. It kept swimming into Ling Xiao's body, wanting to completely assimilate him, erase his intelligence, and turn him into a dark puppet without any consciousness. Chapter 3478. At this moment, the world tree between Ling Xiao's eyebrows emitted a dazzling radiance. Branches and leaves slowly extended out and merged into Ling Xiao's body. It began to absorb and devour the power of the origin of darkness. The origin of darkness that had entered Ling Xiao's body was like a mouse that had seen a cat. It emitted an incomparably terrified emotional fluctuation and wanted to escape from Ling Xiao's body. However, as expected, it was all devoured and absorbed by the world tree. Rumble. A huge black hole seemed to have appeared in Ling Xiao's body, devouring the origin of darkness around him. Then dazzling golden light gushed out from his body. Like a peerless war god, he instantly rushed out of the endless darkness. What? Crown Prince Tian's body shook, and the smile on his face instantly froze. The Dark Emperor weapon in his hand was called the Ring of Oblivion. It was left behind by an extremely powerful and terrifying Dark Immortal Emperor. The dark divine light it emitted was called the Oblivion Light. It could cause all living things to fall into darkness. Even a quasi-immortal emperor couldn't be spared. In his opinion, Ling Xiao's intelligence should have been completely erased after being struck by the light of oblivion, and he should have become his dark puppet. However, he didn't expect Ling Xiao to shatter the oblivion light and break free from it. Kill! Ling Xiao's eyes were dazzling with divine light. It was as if an endless chaotic void had appeared. Within it, an indomitable ancient divine tree that pierced through the chaos appeared. Every leaf was an ancient world. Every branch was like a long river of time and space. It could pierce through the ancient history of a civilization and condense a chapter of civilization. It was extremely mysterious and unfathomable. At this moment, the sky-devouring sword in Ling Xiao's hand seemed to be contaminated with an extremely mysterious divine power. It was extremely powerful as it slashed down toward Crown Prince Tian. Crack! Crown Prince Tian's expression changed. He activated the Ring of Oblivion again, and a beam of oblivion light shot toward Ling Xiao. Crack! However, that beam of oblivion light was instantly destroyed by Ling Xiao's sky-devouring sword. Endless power surged out of Ling Xiao's body. He seemed to have merged with the world tree as he charged toward Crown Prince Tian. Crack! The chaos fist mark pierced through the void in all directions, and Ling Xiao smashed a fist toward Crown Prince Darkness. The incomparably huge fist print seemed to have transformed into tens of thousands of figures in an instant. They were sparkling and resplendent in the void as they attacked the Prince of Darkness at the same time. At this moment, Crown Prince Darkness's eyes were filled with disbelief. He had never imagined that the Ring of Oblivion, the incomparably powerful Emperor weapon of darkness, the weapon that had once reaped the lives of countless quasi-immortal emperors, would actually be ineffective against Ling Xiao. And within Ling Xiao's body, there was a kind of energy fluctuation that made Crown Prince Darkness tremble in fear. Kill! The Dark Prince's eyes were cold. His arrogance didn't allow him to retreat. He used a supreme Dark Emperor technique, and dark divine light surged around him like a vast ocean. He attacked Ling Xiao unceasingly and collided with Ling Xiao. Rumble. Heaven and earth trembled violently as boundless spatial turbulence swept across the area. At this moment, Crown Prince Darkness was completely suppressed by Ling Xiao. Those fist marks exploded one after another. Ling Xiao's attack was incomparably fierce. It blasted onto Crown Prince Darkness's body, causing him to tremble violently and his aura to become incomparably chaotic. And the dark energy that seemed to be able to erode everything, when it came into contact with Ling Xiao's body, seemed to be devoured by a black hole. In an instant, it was absorbed by Ling Xiao without a trace. At this moment, Ling Xiao's strength seemed to have skyrocketed by dozens of times. Every sword strike could slash through hundreds of millions of miles of void, and every punch could kill hundreds of millions of creatures. He constantly blasted toward Crown Prince Darkness. Streaks of sword light were left on Crown Prince Darkness's body. He was in an incomparably sorry state. He roared again and again. The dark origin power that gushed out from his body was completely devoured and refined by Ling Xiao. Crown Prince Darkness's body suddenly trembled violently, as if he had thought of something. His eyes were filled with disbelief as he exclaimed, You actually merged with a world tree?" His voice contained disbelief, as well as a trace of deep fear and dread. "Kill!" Ling Xiao roared. His eyes were like iron, and the aura around him was incomparably cold. Blazing and dazzling golden light gushed out. He threw a punch at Crown Prince Darkness. It was like an Archean divine domain that had been reinforced with the power of 6 billion worlds. In an instant, it blasted onto Crown Prince Darkness's body, causing him to tremble violently. A trace of black blood flowed out from his mouth as he was sent flying. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. As if confirming Crown Prince Darkness's guess, Ling Xiao took a step forward and arrived in front of him in an instant. Sparkling and translucent branches shot out from his palm. They were incomparably fierce, as if they were sharper than the sky-devouring sword. They instantly pierced through Crown Prince Darkness's incomparably sturdy body, and began to extract the dark origin power within his body. What? It really is a world tree. Crown Prince Darkness's face was incomparably ugly. His eyes were filled with incomparable horror. He began to frantically activate the Darkness Imperial weapon on his finger, triggering endless oblivion light. He wanted to completely engulf and drown Ling Xiao. However, Ling Xiao's body was shrouded in resplendent light. Immortal light rose, and the shadow of the world tree appeared around him. It took root in the chaos, swallowing and spitting out endless chaotic power. At this moment, the branches of the world tree probed into Crown Prince Darkness's body, constantly extracting and refining the dark origin power within his body. The dark origin power seemed to provide the world tree with incomparably sufficient nourishment, causing it to emit waves of joyful emotions. The world tree could devour the dark origin power. It was the nemesis of the dark origin power. As it devoured the dark origin power within Crown Prince Darkness's body, the world tree seemed to turn black and white. It intertwined with yin and yang qi, becoming more and more mysterious and abstruse. Rumble. The sky-devouring sword in Ling Xiao's hand swept out. The incomparably fierce sword light seemed to directly split the heavens and the earth, splitting Crown Prince Darkness in half. As for the oblivion light, it was completely devoured by the world tree when it came into contact with Ling Xiao's body. Rumble. The aura around Ling Xiao became more and more mysterious, and his entire person became more and more unfathomable. As for Crown Prince Darkness's aura, it became weaker and weaker. At this moment, after being split in half by Ling Xiao, he had no power to resist. It was as if he could only allow the world tree to devour and refine him. As a result, everyone saw this mysterious and shocking scene. A huge world tree rooted in the chaos suppressed the universe and destroyed everything. The branches completely penetrated Crown Prince Darkness, constantly absorbing the dark origin power within his body. Crown Prince Darkness finally couldn't help but let out an incomparably miserable cry. It resounded between the heavens and the earth, causing everyone to tremble. They couldn't help but reveal an incomparably shocked and awed expression. Chapter 3479. At this moment, everyone was stunned. Especially those dark quasi-immortal emperors. Their eyes were filled with disbelief and fear. What did they see? The powerful Prince of Darkness had been pierced through by Ling Xiao, and was being devoured and refined. And the Prince of Darkness looked like he was in great pain, and had no strength to resist. How could this be? That was the powerful Prince of Darkness. Even the immortal Emperor of Darkness had to treat him with respect. He had an extremely high status among the creatures of darkness. In the past, he was always high up and looked down on all living things. When had he ever revealed such a sorry and miserable appearance? Di Hongguan, Crown Prince Li Wuji, Second Prince Li Wushuang, and the others all looked very excited. As the saying goes, capture the ringleader first to capture the bandits. Now that Ling Xiao had defeated the most powerful Prince of Darkness, as long as Ling Xiao could kill him, the crisis they were facing at this moment would be easily resolved. Rumble. Blazing divine light trembled in the void all around. The void surged and the darkness origin kept surging. Many dark quasi-immortal emperors and dark creatures were shocked and angry. They all rushed toward Ling Xiao fearlessly, wanting to save the Prince of Darkness. Stop them! Di Hongguan roared. The radiant immortal sword in her hand bloomed with dazzling light that traversed hundreds of millions of miles of void. The incomparably sharp sword qi swept away thousands of dark creatures in an instant. Then she directly rushed into the sky and blocked those dark quasi-immortal emperors. Ning Shukong, Yan Hongya, and the others did not dare to be negligent. They knew that at this moment, all hope was on Ling Xiao. If Ling Xiao could not kill the Prince of Darkness, it would be extremely difficult for them to escape today. Therefore, at this moment, they did not dare to be negligent or scheming. They all used their most powerful divine powers to meet those dark quasi-immortal emperors. Rumble. The battle between the three immortal courts and the dark creatures became more and more intense. Crack. It was as if there were hundreds of millions of thunderbolts exploding around Ling Xiao. The world tree in his body emitted a dazzling radiance. Translucent branches pierced through Prince Darkness like tentacles, then devoured the darkness origin in his body. The world tree seemed to have an extremely powerful restraining effect on the darkness origin source. Although the Dark Prince had many means, he was unable to move at all after being engulfed and imprisoned by the world tree. His eyes were filled with fury, shock, and despair as he let out a crazy roar. Ant-like thing, quickly release this prince. Otherwise, when my army of darkness enters the eternal immortal domains, you'll be killed beyond the shadow of a doubt, even if you flee to the ends of the earth. The Dark Prince was also very unyielding. He didn't have the slightest intention of begging for mercy. Even now he was still threatening Ling Xiao, not showing any signs of backing down. Then we'll talk about it after you survive today. Ling Xiao replied coldly. He poured all of his magic power into the world tree, causing it to shine brightly and continuously extract the darkness origin source. As the world tree absorbed the darkness origin source, its aura grew stronger and stronger, as if it had received powerful nourishment. It took root deep within Ling Xiao's nascent spirit, then began to swell with a vast and mysterious aura of the Tao. Ling Xiao seemed to have fallen into a mysterious state of enlightenment. Boundless laws of the eternal heavenly Tao swirled around him, and his aura and cultivation advanced by leaps and bounds. Crack. At this moment, a branch from the Tree of World pierced through the forehead of the Dark Prince, wanting to completely penetrate his primordial spirit. However, the Dark Prince's nascent spirit suddenly released a strange and mysterious ripple. It was as if a dark boundary had emerged, protecting his nascent spirit within. The boundary was ancient and mysterious, interwoven with the eternal power of darkness, and blocked the world tree's branch. Who dares harm His Excellency the Dark Prince? An ancient and cryptic ripple of nascent spirit emanated from the boundary. The boundary shone brightly, and a figure with a terrifying aura vaguely appeared. The figure looked at Ling Xiao from across time and space, and his eyes were filled with monstrous killing intent. Dark Immortal Emperor. Ling Xiao's body trembled, and his eyes were filled with a solemn expression. Although that gaze was looking at him through layers of time and space, it still made him feel extremely powerful pressure. Only the legendary Immortal Emperor experts had such terrifying and mysterious power. Ling Xiao didn't expect the Dark Prince's identity to be so terrifying. Even the Dark Immortal Emperor addressed him as His Excellency the Dark Prince? Break! Ling Xiao's eyes flashed with divine light, and he instantly activated the World Tree. More branches emerged from the World Tree, and they pierced through the boundary around the Dark Prince's nascent spirit. Rumble! The World Tree's branches were extremely powerful, as if they were eternal Emperor weapons. They contained a power fluctuation that could penetrate and destroy everything. Although the dark boundary was extremely powerful, it was still violently trembling under the World Tree's branches. Dark runes were annihilated, and the dark boundary's power grew dimmer and dimmer. I don't care who you are, you're dead meat. How dare you attack His Excellency the Dark Prince? No place in this world can protect you. The eyes of the Dark Immortal Emperor were filled with monstrous killing intent. Although he was getting more and more blurry, the terrifying killing intent in his eyes was like a flame that wanted to break through the endless space-time and attack Ling Xiao, completely burning him into ashes. Wait until you find me first. Ling Xiao replied coldly. Since he had already become enemies with the Dark Prince, he didn't believe that the Dark Immortal Emperors would let him go even if he released the Dark Prince now. In that case, he might as well kill the Dark Prince first. Perhaps this would eliminate a great enemy for the eternal immortal domains. Crack. With a crisp sound, hundreds of branches of the World Tree instantly pierced through the barrier of darkness. They emitted a sparkling and translucent light, as they pierced through the primordial spirit of the Dark Prince in an instant. No! Crown Prince Darkness let out an incomparably terrified roar. He hadn't expected Ling Xiao to be able to break through the dark boundary of his nascent spirit. It was a powerful boundary left behind by several Dark Immortal Emperors. It was terrifying to the extreme, and even an Immortal Emperor expert couldn't easily destroy it. This was why he was so confident. However, he hadn't expected the World Tree in Ling Xiao's nascent spirit's consciousness to be so terrifying that it could break through the dark boundary. Chapter 3480. The Prince of Darkness wanted to say something, but the branches of the World Tree were extremely sharp and pierced through his primordial spirit like a spear. The darkness origin contained in his primordial spirit was instantly devoured and absorbed by the World Tree. In the end, the Prince of Darkness's primordial spirit suddenly exploded into countless dark fragments. The World Tree seemed to have turned into a huge black hole, devouring all the fragments of the primordial spirit. Boom! The Prince of Darkness's body rapidly shriveled, like a mummy, and finally exploded into ashes. All the origin and energy were devoured and absorbed by the World Tree, and then disappeared without a trace. What? The Dark Quasi-Immortal Emperors were all shocked, and their eyes were filled with disbelief. Their hearts were even filled with horror. The Prince of Darkness's identity was too precious and honorable. They could imagine what kind of consequences they would have to bear if the Prince of Darkness died. It was a pain where they could neither live nor die. When they thought of it, they trembled all over. Kill him! The eyes of the Dark Quasi-Immortal Emperors instantly turned blood red. They crazily abandoned their original opponents, and then charged toward Ling Xiao without fear of death. At this moment, Ling Xiao was sitting cross-legged in the void, surrounded by ethereal immortal light and chaotic mist. His whole person looked ethereal and peaceful. Behind him, in the endless chaotic light, an ancient tree seemed to vaguely appear. It took root in the chaos, and above its head were the sun, the moon, and the stars. It was surrounded by the long river of time and space. It looked crystal clear and mysterious. At this moment, Ling Xiao seemed to have sunk into a mysterious state of enlightenment. The darkness origin contained in the Prince of Darkness's body was too strong and vast. Although most of it was devoured by the World Tree, there was still a part that merged into Ling Xiao's body, making his aura and cultivation constantly improve. Protect Ling Xiao! Di Hongwan shouted angrily. The radiant immortal sword in her hand was filled with sword qi, blocking in front of the dark quasi-immortal emperors. The people of the Crown Prince Li Wuji and the second Prince Li Wushuang also attacked, trying to stop the dark quasi-immortal emperors. Although they didn't know what was going on with Ling Xiao, they could vaguely see that Ling Xiao's cultivation had broken through after devouring and refining the Prince of Darkness. Therefore, they were determined to protect Ling Xiao and not allow these dark quasi-immortal emperors to disturb Ling Xiao's breakthrough. At this moment, Ning Shukong looked at Ling Xiao with deep jealousy. Although Ling Xiao had brought the immortal court of creation to save him and Yan Hongya, he didn't feel the slightest gratitude in his heart. Instead, he was incomparably jealous of Ling Xiao. He was jealous of Ling Xiao's great talent, and even more jealous of Ling Xiao's outstanding battle prowess. Even the Dark Crown Prince had died in Ling Xiao's hands, greatly suppressing his limelight. Therefore, at this moment, he did not show any signs of attacking when he saw the dark quasi-immortal emperors charging towards Ling Xiao. Instead, he watched coldly as the dark quasi-immortal emperors charged towards Ling Xiao. Xian. Yan Hongya took a deep look at Ning Shukong. She didn't leave him to die. Instead, she said to Zhou Yuan. In an instant, she led the many experts of the great Yan immortal court and charged towards the dark quasi-immortal emperor. Xian XS, Xian Bai Qingxue and Bai Qingshuang transmitted their voices to Ning Shukong at the same time. You found the entrance to the immortal emperor's inheritance? Very good, let's go. We'll immediately head to the land of legacy and let them fight to the death here. If both of them are seriously injured, we might be able to reap the benefits. Ning Shukong transmitted his voice to Bai Qingxue and Bai Qingshuang, his eyes flashing coldly. Yes. Bai Qingxue, Bai Shuang, and the gray-robed young man with the ancient sword on his back bowed and accepted the order. Then they quietly left the battlefield with Ning Shukong. When no one was paying attention, they moved toward the entrance of the immortal emperor's inheritance. Damn it! Ning Shukong and the others actually ran away. Crown Prince Li Wuji's eyes flashed with a cold light as he said furiously, I'm afraid they didn't run away. They must have gone to seize the immortal emperor's inheritance. They want us to fight for them while they search for the immortal emperor's inheritance. What a good plan. The second Prince Li Wushuang also said coldly. His eyes were filled with incomparably cold killing intent. At this moment, everyone from the Creation Immortal Court and the Great Yin Immortal Court were dissatisfied with Ning Shukong and the others. However, there was nothing they could do. The 8 dark quasi-immortal emperors in front of them were extremely powerful and pressured them greatly. They were all at a disadvantage. Each of them fearlessly charged toward Ling Xiao, wanting to kill Ling Xiao to avenge the Dark Crown Prince. They couldn't even take care of themselves, let alone the people from the Truth Immortal Court. Rumble. The 8 darkness quasi-immortal emperors surged forward like a torrent, unleashing powerful darkness emperor arts. Each of them had monstrous strength and suppressed Di Hongguan, Li Wuji, Li Wushuang, Yan Hongya and Zhou Yuan. The 2 immortal courts only had 5 quasi-immortal emperors in total. Facing the 8 powerful dark quasi-immortal emperors, they were all in a tough battle. Rumble. At this moment, chaotic lightning surged around Ling Xiao. The world tree behind him bloomed with dazzling light. A vast and terrifying pressure enveloped the 8 dark quasi-immortal emperors. At the same time, the branches of the world tree intertwined with each other like spears that could pierce through everything. They were also like dense tentacles, forming a huge net that covered the sky and covered the earth, enveloping the 8 darkness quasi-immortal emperors. Oh no, run! The 8 dark quasi-immortal emperors' expressions changed drastically. Their eyes were filled with incomparable fear. Now that they were facing the branches of the world tree, they finally understood what the Dark Crown Prince had encountered, and why he couldn't resist at all. When they saw the world tree and the aura it emitted, their bodies trembled violently. Their hearts were filled with uncontrollable fear. They turned around and wanted to escape. However, the branches of the world tree were incomparably sharp. They easily tore through their physical defenses and penetrated their bodies. At the same time, they began to frantically extract the dark origin in their bodies. Even someone as powerful as the Dark Crown Prince couldn't resist at all after being penetrated by the world tree. Although the 8 dark quasi-immortal emperors were powerful, they didn't have as many tricks as the Dark Crown Prince. Therefore, they couldn't resist at all. They all showed incomparable fear and despair as they watched the dark origin in their bodies being devoured and refined by the world tree. Chapter 3481. Rumble. The void around them trembled violently. Ling Zhao's body was shrouded in golden radiance and chaotic light. His robe was whiter than snow, and his black hair fluttered in the wind. He looked like an immortal supreme immortal emperor, surrounded by various mysterious phenomena that seemed capable of tearing apart the world. His aura was terrifying to the extreme. Behind him, an ancient world tree, rooted in the chaotic void, emerged, blooming with dazzling light and surrounded by a mysterious Tao domain. The world tree's branches swayed, and its leaves floated in the air. Each leaf seemed to represent an ancient great world that nurtured countless living beings. The world tree seemed to be the origin of all the worlds. Anyone who looked at it would tremble uncontrollably. Translucent branches of the world tree stabbed into the bodies of the 8 darkness quasi-immortal emperors, tearing their bodies apart and devouring the darkness origin in their bodies. The eyes of the 8 dark quasi-immortal emperors were filled with horror, but they didn't have the strength to resist. They could only watch as the darkness source in their bodies was drained away, and their life aura was dissipating. Di Honghuan, Crown Prince Li Wuji, Second Prince Li Wushuang, Yan Hongya, and the others trembled in fear. Their eyes were filled with awe. Di Honghuan's mouth was agape, and her eyes were filled with disbelief. She looked at Ling Xiao as if she was looking at the incomparably powerful Radiance Immortal Emperor ancestor of the Radiance Immortal Court. Both of them exuded the same aura. It was the aura of someone who controlled the eternal heavenly Tao, and was immortal and indestructible. If she hadn't known that Ling Xiao had broken through to the quasi-immortal emperor realm not long ago, she would have thought that Ling Xiao was an old immortal emperor monster. This is too terrifying. This guy is so strong. There's a world tree in his body. No wonder he can devour the darkness origin. Di Honghuan's eyes flashed with envy when she saw the ancient and mysterious world tree rooted in the chaotic void behind Ling Xiao. Even in the eternal immortal domains, the world tree was an unimaginable supreme treasure. According to the legends, only when an immortal and eternal world was born and destroyed could a heaven-defying divine object like the world tree be born. The world tree could create an undying world that existed independently of the eternal immortal domains. According to the legends, the deathless world created by the world tree, if fully developed, could become a second eternal immortal domain. In the history of the eternal immortal domains, all of the chosen who had acquired the world tree had been incredibly talented. In the end, all of them had relied on the world tree to become immortal emperors, eternally indestructible. Therefore, Di Honghuan also understood that Ling Xiao must be someone with great luck. With the world tree and his heaven-defying talent, it would not be difficult for him to become an eternal immortal emperor. They could even be like that legendary genius who went against the heavens, going against the heavens and peering into that supreme forbidden realm. Rumble. Boundless darkness origin gushed out from all directions, forming a black devouring vortex around Ling Xiao, devouring the darkness origin. The Dark Prince had died at Ling Xiao's hands, and the 9 dark subimmortal emperors had all been killed by him. The rest of the dark army had no one to command them, so they fled like headless flies. Most of them didn't manage to escape the world tree's devouring. They were all covered by the branches of the world tree, and turned into the purest darkness origin. They were all devoured by the world tree and integrated into Ling Xiao's body. At the same time, Ling Xiao's cultivation base began to skyrocket. In just a few moments, his cultivation base had stabilized at the first heaven of the half-immortal emperor realm, and he quickly broke through to the second heaven of the half-immortal emperor realm. In the end, his cultivation base stopped at the third heaven of the half-immortal emperor realm. The eyes of Di Honghuan and the others were filled with shock. Ling Xiao's cultivation had broken through 2 heavenly layers just by devouring these creatures of darkness. His cultivation speed was simply unprecedented. It should be known that after reaching the half-immortal emperor realm, unless one had heaven-defying resources and good fortune, it would take thousands or even tens of thousands of years to cultivate each heavenly level. There were even half-immortal emperors who had survived from the Antiquity Age, who had not been able to break through from the first heaven of the half-immortal emperor realm to the ninth heaven of the half-immortal emperor realm. This showed how difficult it was to cultivate in the half-immortal emperor realm. There were 9 heavens of the half-immortal emperor realm, and the difference in strength between each heavenly level was extremely huge. Therefore, even though Di Hongguan had heaven-defying talent, the light sovereign physique, the immortal emperor's inheritance, and many other trump cards, she was only at the first heaven of the true immortal realm. Facing a 5th or 6th heaven of the half-immortal emperor realm, she still found it extremely difficult. If they were at the true immortal realm or the immortal king realm, with Di Hongguan's terrifying talent, it was not impossible for her to fight an enemy who was one realm higher. However, in the half-immortal emperor realm, the difference in cultivation base and strength was extremely huge. It was like a chasm that could not be crossed. Rumble. The figures of the 8 darkness quasi-immortal emperors exploded in the void, turning into dust and disappearing with the wind. Their darkness origins had been completely devoured and refined by the world tree. The heavenly Tao ancient battlefield was now empty. The army of half-immortal emperor realm, which had been densely packed with hundreds of millions of half-immortal emperors, was now completely gone. The heavenly Tao ancient battlefield was once again empty and desolate. Whoosh! Ling Xiao slowly descended from the void. The dazzling light around him slowly dissipated, and his powerful and unfathomable aura slowly withdrew. At this moment, everyone from the Creation Immortal Court and the Great Yin Immortal Court looked at him with reverence in their eyes. They felt that their bodies were filled with explosive power. Ling Xiao's eyes shone brightly, and he was very satisfied. He could feel that he could now tear apart the void of the eternal immortal domain with a single punch. It was clear that his strength had undergone an earth-shattering transformation. 3rd heaven of the half-immortal emperor realm? It seems that I'm not far from the eternal immortal emperor realm. Ling Xiao thought to himself, and a hint of anticipation flashed in his eyes. At this moment, the Great Yin Immortal Court's eldest princess, Yan Hongya, walked over to Ling Xiao, followed by Zhou Yuan, who looked extremely awkward. Many thanks for saving our lives, fellow Taoist Ling Xiao. The Great Yin Immortal Court is eternally grateful. I previously heard that Zhou Yuan had offended fellow Taoist Ling Xiao, so I apologize to fellow Taoist Ling Xiao on his behalf. This is the Great Yin Immortal Court's life and death writ. Consider it my apology on behalf of Zhou Yuan. Please accept it. Yan Hongya said sincerely to Ling Xiao. Life and death writ? The eldest princess is really generous. I didn't expect her to take out a life and death writ. Senior Ling Xiao, this life and death writ is a good thing. It can mobilize the Great Yan's eternal emperor weapon, the life-death mirror, to launch a full-force attack for you. It can also make the Great Yin Immortal Court owe you a favor. As long as they can do it, they will do their best. That's why the life and death writ is so precious. Throughout history, the Great Yin Immortal Court has never given out more than 5 life and death writ. Crown Prince Li Wuji said with some emotion, as if he was explaining the function of the life and death writ to Ling Xiao. If that's the case, I won't stand on ceremony. Ling Xiao's heart skipped a beat. He nodded his head and kept the life and death token. The fact that the life and death writ could mobilize the Great Yin Immortal Court's eternal emperor weapon, the life-death mirror, showed that the life and death writ was indeed a good thing. It would be of great use to Ling Xiao. If he used it well, he could use it as a trump card. Although the Great Yin Immortal Court was weak now, it still had the eternal emperor weapon to suppress its luck and foundation. Its strength should not be underestimated. Senior Ling Xiao, we saved that bastard Ning Xiankong, but he ran away, leaving us to face the 8 immortal emperors alone while he himself ran away. He's really hateful. Why don't we find them and kill all the people of the Truth Immortal Court? The second Prince Li Wushuang said with a face full of resentment. Because of the competition between him and Crown Prince Li Wuji, he was very unhappy with Ling Xiao. However, after so many battles in the heavenly ancient battlefield, he was deeply impressed by Ling Xiao's strength. He no longer had any resistance to Ling Xiao, and even wanted to befriend and rope him in. Ning Shukong is indeed unkind, but the Truth Immortal Court is very powerful. If you kill him, I'm afraid you'll be in big trouble. Yin Hongya frowned slightly, and said slowly, "Big trouble? Is the creation immortal court not in big enough trouble? We're already mortal enemies with the truth immortal court, and we won't rest until one of us is dead. Since Ning Xiukong was unkind first, he can't blame us for being rude to him." Even Crown Prince Li Wuji, who had always been steady and kind, was angry when Ning Xiukong was mentioned. His eyes flashed with cold light, and his body was full of monstrous killing intent. Ling Zhao's expression did not change, and he did not comment. Yin Hongya pondered for a moment and said slowly, "I can tell you where Ning Xiukong is. They found a place where the eternal celestial emperor's inheritance is not far from here. I can lead you to the entrance. However, the Great Yin Immortal Court will not be involved in the feud between the Creation Immortal Court and the Truth Immortal Court. Please forgive us, Crown Prince, Second Prince, and Ling Xiao." After all, the Great Yin Immortal Court was too weak compared to the Truth Immortal Court. It was understandable that they did not want to offend the Truth Immortal Court. Moreover, Yin Hongya's willingness to help Ling Xiao and the others find Ning Xiukong was a great show of sincerity. Therefore, Li Wuji and Li Shuang did not make things difficult for her. They nodded and agreed. Under Yin Hongya's lead, Ling Xiao, Di Honghuan, Li Wuji, Li Wushuang, and the others walked toward a black stone forest. The stone forest covered an area of thousands of miles. There were rugged rocks everywhere, and they were filled with a strong aura of darkness origin. However, there were no dark creatures here. Ordinary people did not want to be contaminated by the aura of darkness, so they did not pay attention to this place. However, the deeper they went, the more Ling Zhao's eyes flashed. He felt a faint but obscure Taoist rhyme permeating the air. The mysterious Taoist rhyme was incompatible with the surrounding aura of darkness. It seemed to point to something hidden in the depths of the stone forest. Finally, under Yin Hongya's lead, they arrived at the depths of the stone forest. There was a strange-looking black rock in the depths of the stone forest. It looked like a dark stone door. There was a faint fluctuation of void energy coming from it. It vaguely led to a strange world. Ling Xiao could sense that there was originally an extremely powerful seal or formation barrier on the dark stone door, but it had already been broken through. Clearly, someone had gotten there first and entered it. This is the place of the Celestial Emperor's inheritance. I don't know which ancient Celestial Emperor left it behind. If you're looking for Ning Xiukong, he should be here. Yin Hongya said slowly. "Thank you, Your Highness. In that case, let's go in and have a look." "Your Highness, please help yourself," Crown Prince Li Wuji said with a faint smile. Yin Hongya's eyes flashed with an apologetic light. However, she knew that the Great Yin Immortal Court couldn't interfere in the grudge between the Celestial Court of Truth and the Celestial Court of Fortune. She couldn't get involved in this mess, so she nodded at Li Wuji and Li Wushuang before leading the rest of the Great Yin Immortal Court away. A powerful Dark Crown Prince had appeared in the Heavenly Dao Ancient battlefield, along with 9 powerful Dark Quasi-Emperors. They were leading an army of darkness to attack the eternal immortal domains. If it weren't for Ling Xiao, they would have all been killed by the army of darkness. Therefore, she had to leave immediately and report this news. When Yin Hongya left, she took the celestial kings of the Celestial Court of Fortune with her. Only Ling Xiao, Di Honghuan, Li Wuji, and Li Wushuang remained. Those celestial kings would only increase the number of casualties. They wouldn't be of much help. Therefore, Li Wuji asked Yin Hongya to lead them out of the Heavenly Dao Ancient battlefield. After Yin Hongya left, only Ling Xiao, Di Honghuan, Li Wuji, and Li Wushuang remained in front of the black stone door. "Let's go." Ling Zhao's eyes flashed as he took the lead and stepped through the black stone door. Rumble. The void trembled, and divine light surged. Everywhere was a vast expanse of whiteness, as if they were standing in the middle of the sun. Nothing could be seen except for the boundless radiance. Chaotic currents surged all around them, as if they were in a realm of nothingness, where nothing existed. The turbulent currents surged like great waves, constantly destroying the void and shattering all things. They condensed into incomparably mysterious small worlds. This is the Chaos Sea. Ling Zhao's body trembled as a trace of shock appeared in his eyes. The eternal immortal domains could be considered a vast continent floating above the endless Chaos Sea. He had never imagined that after passing through the black stone door, they would appear in the middle of the Chaos Sea. However, there was a powerful, transparent boundary between them and the Chaos Sea that seemed to separate them from everything else. This is the Chaos Sea, no doubt about it. The powerful celestial emperor must have torn apart the space of the eternal immortal domains and opened up a cave abode in the Chaos Sea. Di Hongwan's eyes were filled with curiosity as she spoke slowly. They walked forward slowly and saw an incomparably ancient chaos divine mountain in front of them. It emitted boundless chaotic light, and its aura was majestic and incomparably majestic. It seemed to be surrounded by endless worlds, and billions of spacetimes had been opened and then destroyed. The scene was incomparably mysterious and strange. Standing in front of the Chaos Divine Mountain, even though Ling Xiao and the other three had broken through to the Emperor-to-be realm, they still felt as insignificant as ants. They walked toward the Chaos Divine Mountain. This is not a mountain, but a gigantic chaotic corpse. Ling Xiao's body trembled, and his eyes flashed with disbelief. When he arrived in front of the Chaos Divine Mountain, he realized that it was incomparably huge. It was unknown how many billions of miles it was, but it was comparable to the Chaos Tree that Ling Xiao had seen before. It was boundless and majestic. Who would have thought that it would be a gigantic corpse? Who knew what kind of powerhouse had left it behind? The reason it was called a corpse was because it had no aura of life. Instead, it emitted a decaying aura of death, as if it had been dead for countless years. The corpse had turned into a mountain, and remained in this strange space forever. Di Hongwan, Li Wuji, and Li Wushuang were all shaken, and their eyes were filled with incomparable horror. Even the ancient gods, who were the most physically powerful in the eternal immortal domains, were no more than 1,000,000 feet tall when they reached adulthood. Compared to this gigantic corpse, they were as small as dust in front of a divine dragon. As far as they could remember, they had never heard of anyone in the eternal immortal domains who had such a terrifying body. Although many celestial kings, quasi-celestial emperors, and even celestial emperors could use the lawful embodiment of heaven and earth to transform their bodies into millions of miles tall, that was only through divine abilities. After they died, their bodies would only return to their original state. It was impossible for them to maintain such a huge body. If I'm not mistaken, this corpse should belong to that mysterious celestial emperor. I just don't know how terrifying his strength is with such a huge body, and who can kill him. Ling Xiao sighed softly as his eyes flickered with light. No matter what, such a powerful celestial emperor must have left behind an earth-shattering legacy. It must be incomparably terrifying and powerful. We can't let it fall into Ning Shukong's hands. Li Wuji and Li Wushuang exchanged a look and spoke slowly. Ling Xiao and the others immediately soared into the air and flew toward the giant corpse's head. If this mysterious celestial emperor had left behind an inheritance, it must have been at the head. They soared into the sky, surrounded by surging chaotic mist and howling astral winds that seemed capable of tearing their bodies apart. That kind of violent energy was incomparably terrifying. Even if an immortal king expert was here, his physical body and primordial spirit might be directly torn apart, and his soul would be completely scattered. Fortunately, they had all broken through to the quasi-celestial emperor realm. Otherwise, they wouldn't have been able to break through the chaotic mist and astral winds. This made them even more expectant. After being dead for so many years, the corpse's aura was already so terrifying. This celestial emperor couldn't have been a nobody. He must have been a supreme figure in the eternal immortal domain. The giant corpse was billions of miles tall. Ling Xiao, Di Hongwan, and the others flew for a long time before they finally arrived at the head. When they saw the head, they were stunned. Amidst the endless fog of chaos, a great sword was stabbed between the eyebrows of the head. Blood flowed down the great sword, but at this moment, the sword had already turned pitch black. Even so, one could still feel the terrifying baleful aura emanating from the head. This terrifying celestial emperor had been killed by a sword piercing between the eyebrows. That head exuded endless chaotic light, like a vast and resplendent sun, vast and boundless. Although the corpse's eyes were tightly shut, Ling Xiao and the others could still feel the overwhelming murderous aura and unwillingness emanating from the corpse. It was as if they could see the unparalleled battle from countless years ago through time and space. He wondered what kind of person the owner of that huge sword was. Ling Xiao, Di Hongwan, and the others were shocked. Their expressions were grave, and they became even more cautious. At this moment, Ling Xiao's eyes flashed. He suddenly felt the faint sounds of fighting coming from the head in front of him. Soon Di Hongwan, Li Wuji, Li Wushuang, and the others also sensed it. They all wore strange expressions. They immediately thought of Ning Shukong and the others. After all, Ning Shukong and the others had disappeared after entering the black stone door. It was most likely that they were searching for the Celestial Emperor's inheritance in the corpse. However, there were sounds of fighting. Could it be that there was some danger in the corpse? Di Hongwan, Li Wuji, and Li Wushuang couldn't help but look at Ling Xiao, waiting for him to make a decision. No matter what, we have to go in and take a look. Ling Xiao pondered for a moment, then said decisively. Then, a bright light rose around him, and he instantly turned into a stream of light. He entered the head through the ear hole of the giant head. Di Hongwan, Li Wuji, and Li Wushuang naturally followed closely behind. Their speed was extremely fast as they rushed in the direction of the sound of the battle. Even the ear holes in their heads were like vast and boundless continents, incomparably vast. However, only the twisting ear wall could let them feel that they were flying inside the giant's body. The sound of fighting ahead became clearer and clearer. At the same time, Ling Xiao felt an extremely dense demonic qi rushing toward him. It contained monstrous murderous qi and murderous fluctuations, as if it would destroy all life. It was extremely terrifying. At this moment, Ning Shukong by Qingshuang by Qingxue, and the others led the celestial kings of the Truth Celestial Court and escaped in a sorry state. Behind them was a mummy shrouded in dark murderous qi. Its eyes were extremely red and emotionless. It was filled with endless murderous qi and cruelty. It could kill a celestial king with a casual swipe of its hand. Then, it stuffed the celestial king into its mouth and swallowed him completely. Along the way, it had swallowed countless celestial kings. It could be seen from the terrified expressions of Ning Shukong and the others that they were in an extremely sorry state. They were no match for the mummy at all. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.